Chapter 128. You provoke them, let me try. Qin Hao came to the bed and placed his palm on Tsayogua's cheek. His tender little face was now pale and cold. Qin Hao's heart ached. Good brother. At the auction, the two had treated each other with utmost sincerity. Qin Hao was willing to risk his life to protect Tsayougua. Today, the Qin manor was in trouble. Tsayougua was willing to give up his demon ox body to protect Qin Hao. Everything was understood without words. Qin Hao secretly circulated his yuan qi and sent it into Tsayogua's body through his cheek. Qin Hao's yuan qi carried a trace of red lotus fire yuan. The demon ox body was one of the most ferocious bodies in the world. After awakening, it had a ferocious appearance and immense strength. Its defense was astonishing. The main reason was that there was a violent element in the body. Once the body could not withstand the violent element, it would collapse. But compared to the fierceness of the red lotus fire, this violent element was nothing. Controlling the fire yuan to flow through Tsayogua's body, the violent element was like a turtle meeting its ancestor. Qin Hao obediently took it out of Tsayogua's body. Qin Hao's finger flashed. The violent element was absorbed into the spatial ring. This thing was very special. Who knew when it would be useful? Done. Qin Hao took back his hand with ease. You just touched his face, and it's done? The drunkard was stunned for a moment, then became angry. Are you playing with old man? This Qin Hao did not know how to lie. Even if he was like Dan Xian, taking Tsayogua's pulse and then flipping Tsayogua's eyelids, he would still be able to fool him. The drunkard could still give Qin Hao a way out. This bastard just casually touched his face, and it was done. This was simply humiliating the old man in front of everyone. He rushed forward and grabbed Qin Hao's collar. Beside him, Dan Xian was also sweating profusely. However, it was not good to stop him. Qin Hao had bitten his tongue by bragging. Let go of me. Do you believe that if I shout 3 times, Melon Brother will wake up? Qin Hao did not dare to resist. The log had reminded him that there would be consequences if he angered the drinker. Bah! Even if you shout 300 times, 3,000 times, 30,000 times, until your throat bleeds, my precious disciple still won't wake up. This is simply infuriating to death, old man. If it wasn't for Dan Xian's face, the drunkard would have slapped Qin Hao's face. 1. Qin Hao started counting. What qualifications do you have to be Dan Xian's disciple? He has never accepted a disciple. You don't have the qualifications, you don't have the family background, you don't have the face of a donkey, and your life is worthless. 2. If it wasn't for you, how could my disciple run to Akita town, where even birds don't shit? What's more hateful is that he even became sworn brothers with you. What qualifications do you have to be my disciple's big brother? He has the 1 in 10,000 great strength ox demon body. You are nothing. I already have the heart to kill you. The drunkard really raised his hand to slap. Dan Xian's face changed. He really did not have the face to stop him. Qin Hao was really too much. Of all the people he could harm, he had to harm Tsayougua. Even Dan Xian felt distressed. This 1 in 10,000 great strength ox demon body. 3 you still dare to count. If Lil Melon really wakes up, old man will kneel down and kowtow to you. I will king slap you to death. The drunkard slapped Qin Hao. Master, stop. Tsayogua's weak voice sounded. Thump. The drunkard's heart skipped a beat. The slap stopped in front of Qin Hao, almost hitting his face. Then tears gushed out like a spring. He shook off Qin Hao and rushed to the bed. Little Melon, my good disciple, I thought I would never see Master again. It's my fault, it's all my fault. I had enough time to find you, but I blame Master for drinking. I will never drink this wine again. The drunkard's heart was broken. The gourd at his waist was thrown out. With a loud crash, the wine gourd, which was comparable to a low-grade murder weapon, made a big hole in Qin Hao's house. This made Qin Hao want to curse. You don't own the wall, right? But it could be seen that the drunkard was really good to Tsayougua. He did not hesitate to give up drinking for him. Thinking of this, Qin Hao was relieved of the drunkard's rudeness. Crazy alcoholic, I admit that you have taken in a good disciple, but my disciple is not someone who can be scolded at will. At this time, Dan Xian spoke. His expression was very bad. The drunkard's words just now had seriously hurt Qin Hao's self-esteem. Slap. The drunkard slapped himself hard as an apology to Qin Hao. As the sect leader of the Heavenly Fist sect, he could not kneel down and kowtow. This slap was enough to give Qin Hao face. It's my fault for looking down on you. Allow me to apologize. After the drunkard finished speaking, he looked at Sayogwa. Disciple, just say the word. As long as you say it, I will immediately kill my way to the Dan sect and twist off the old demon's head to use as a urinal. Crazy alcoholic, have you really gone mad? Dan Xian was shocked. The drunkard had always dared to say and do what he said. He did not even care about God. However, the Dan sect had Dan Ji's support and was not to be trifled with. No, Sayogwa shook his head. I want to take revenge myself. Ha ha. As expected of my disciple. The drunkard began to check Sayogwa's body. The seal condensed and stabilized again. The violent energy that attacked the meridians in his body also disappeared. However, Sayogwa's cultivation level also fell from 1-star Yuan Master to 9th layer of Yuan Gathering Tier with the disappearance of the violent elements. Even so, the drunkard was already very happy. He gave Qin Hao a thumbs up. Old man has never cared about anyone in his life, not even Chun Kang. Dan Xian is one. Today you are one too. Old man is extremely proud that Little Melon has such an extraordinary big brother like you. The drunkard said this very sincerely. There was also no lack of flattery in it to Qin Hao. Qin Hao was an alchemist, not to mention that he could refine pills above his level. Even a third-grade alchemist could not subdue the Herculean bull devil body and was easily resolved by Qin Hao. This Qin Hao was very mysterious. With his help, Sayogwa's future path of cultivation would be much easier. This drunkard was paving the way for Sayogwa. Senior drunkard is too serious. In fact, it's all because old man Dan Xian taught me well. Qin Hao was neither servile nor overbearing. This made Dan Xian raise his head proudly, even though Qin Hao had never called him master. Little Melon just woke up. You and Uncle DeShiong chat first. Old man, come out with me for a moment. Qin Hao glanced at Dan Xian and walked out of the room. Dan Xian was startled and hurriedly chased out, feeling that something had happened to Qin Hao. Old man, do you know Tang Mansion? After going out, Qin Hao asked directly. I know. Tang Mansion is a famous family in Heaven's Wall City and has a lot of influence in the secular world. If it was in the past, old man would really disdain it. Unfortunately, Dan Xian sighed. This Tang Mansion produced Tang Fei with the heavenly saint body. They even had a relationship with the pillar of the state general. Their power was not what it used to be. What's wrong? Did you offend them? Chapter 129. I need to see Tang Fei. No, I'm just asking. Qin Hao's expression was calm. In his heart, he confirmed the blood Kirin's words. Dan Xian breathed a sigh of relief. With Qin Hao's lowly status, it was impossible for him to have anything to do with the Tang family. There's something I have to say. The young man who took your parents away must not have any interaction with him, and you are not allowed to mention anything about your parents in the future. The faction behind a heavenly sage expert was unimaginably horrifying. It would not be overboard to destroy 10-odd great Jiang nations with a flip of their hand. Dan Xian was thinking for Qin Hao. If you dare to lick the cat's fangs and look for trouble, even the heavens won't be able to save you. Dan Xian's eyes were very strict. Qin Hao thought to himself, I'm afraid that won't do. Even if Qin Hao did not provoke Qin Yun would not let go of Qin Hao. Qin Dingtian and Tang Rong's lives were still in Qin Yun's hands. As children, how could they ignore their parents when they were in danger? What was the difference between that and a beast? This person, Qin Hao, must be saved. Moreover, he was not afraid of the so-called main family at all. However, on the surface, Qin Hao had to nod and agree. I won't provoke him. Old man, you're not from the Jiang state, are you? Qin Hao had long noticed that Dan Xian was not from the Jiang kingdom. That life-enhancing pill was a 4th-grade pill. This meant that Dan Xian had a saint-level character behind him. This made Qin Hao very curious. That's right. In the past, I was also a member of Dange. The nourishing pill is a relic left behind by Master. Dan Xian's heart was filled with hatred. A former member? Relics? These words caught Qin Hao's attention. This meant that Dan Xian was no longer Dan Ji's man. He was even chased out. That powerful mortal saint alchemist must have also fallen. This is a sad past. Since the other party didn't want to talk about it, Qin Hao didn't ask too much. When it was time to know, he would know. I've decided. I'll go back to Fengli Temple with you tomorrow. Increasing his strength was the most important thing for Qin Hao right now. Really, Pil Xian was overjoyed. This proud and arrogant kid was finally enlightened. But before that, I need to make a trip to the Tang Mansion. What for? Dan Xian's heart tightened. Divorce. Divorce? You still provoke them. No, they provoke me first. After that, Qin Hao turned around and left. At the same time, Xiao Han also returned to his room. Holding the jade pendant in his hand, he sat cross-legged. Did father leave you behind to protect me? If that's the case, please share some of your power with me. I only need a little of it. She spoke to the jade pendant in her palm. In an instant, the jade pendant shone brightly. As if it had a mind of its own, an abundant amount of energy flowed from Xiao Han's palm in her body and gathered in her dantian. Xiao Han's third layer of element gathering tear broke through the fourth layer of element gathering tear in an instant. Perhaps Qin Hao did not know that when he broke the jade pendant. Xiao Han also successfully broke the restriction on the jade pendant. He also found out about the secret in the jade pendant, as well as her shocking background. She was no longer the silly girl from before. She had the ability to think independently. She knew how to protect herself. That was why she did not fear the blood Kirin in the ancestral hall, and even said that Tang Fei was not worthy of Qin Hao. Tang Fei was even more precious than the princess of Jiang country. So what? In Xiao Han's eyes, not to mention the little Tang Fei, even the only princess of Western Liang, the Luo Shui Empire, was not worthy of Qin Hao. Qin Hao belonged to Xiao Han. She also had the right. However, Tang Fei had reached the seventh layer of element gathering tier. She was not someone Xiao Han could fight against at the moment. She needed to become stronger. She needed to protect Qin Hao. She needed to use her actions to prove to the Blood Kirin that he could not do it. She would use the jade water sword in her hand to defend Qin Hao's dignity. After one night, two powerful balls of light rose from the ground of Qin Manor and flew into the distance, one to the south and one to the north. With the help of the 7-star Yuan Master of Dan Xian, Qin Hao was brought to Heaven's Wall City. Xiao Han, Qin Lao Si, the Blood Kirin, Zhuo Maqiang, and Zhuo Junshun were also brought along. The Qin family's medicinal liquid business had entered the market of Heaven's Wall City and needed Qin Lao Si to guard it. Zhuo Maqiang was in the 6th layer of element gathering tier and was also a great help. Fengli Temple was not far from Heaven's Wall City. Qin Lao Si was in the city and could look after Qin Hao. As for Xiaogua and Qida Xiong, they were brought back to Exploding Flame City by Drunkard and Log. Xiaogua had just recovered and needed a rest for a few days. Heaven's Wall City. It was the core of the southern part of Jiang country. It was densely populated and had strong soldiers. The city was extremely prosperous. It cooperated with Heaven Sea City in the north and guarded the land of Jiang country together. The most powerful force in Heaven's Wall City was undoubtedly Fengli Temple. Next were forces like the Dan Sect and Tang Manor. After an hour, everyone settled down outside the city. This was also to avoid alerting the soldiers guarding the city. After all, Dan Xian's aura was too shocking. If they rushed over directly, they might be mistaken as an enemy and cause panic. Therefore, when they were 1 mile away from the city, they had already restrained the aura of a 7-star Yuan Master. Then, Dan Xian patted Qin Hao's shoulder and rushed to the east again. Fengli Temple was among the mountains in the east. Qin Hao had an agreement with him. They would first go to Tang Manor and then go to Fengli Temple to find Dan Xian 3 days later. Dan Xian was very assured about this. Fengli Temple was so close to Heaven's Wall City. If the people of Tang Manor dared to be impudent to Qin Hao, Dan Xian would rush over in the time it took to drink water. Although Yuan masters were still far from being able to fly and could only jump and rest, their speed was still very shocking. If they wanted to fully achieve the ability to fly, they would have to be at least at the level of a late Yuan master. That level of Yuan Qi was extremely large and enough to support a person to fly. You might not believe it, but the low-level Yuan masters in the city are treating our Qin family's 6 fine liquid as a divine medicine. The supply can't meet the demand. Qin Laosi was extremely excited. In fact, he still didn't know that Qin Hao was here to cause trouble for Tang Manor. Qin Hao said that he was here to take a look at the family business. He was the young master of Qin Manor and had the right and qualification to do so. He also wanted to see if there was a chance to meet his grandfather, whom he hadn't seen in 16 years. His grandfather had come a few times when Qin Hao was just born. Later on, he came less often. Even if he came, he wouldn't meet Qin Hao. In his eyes, he didn't recognize Qin Hao as his grandson. He was only here to see Tang Rong. Tang Rong had met with a mishap 3 years ago. His grandfather never came again. "No, we're not going to the Qin pharmacy," Qin Hao said coldly. His face was as cold as ice, and his attitude was like a completely different person. "Then where are we going?" Qin Laosi's heart suddenly beat very fast. "We're going to Tang Manor to find Tang Fei." Qin Hao faced the 2 rows of majestic armored soldiers at the city gate and directly stepped into the most majestic city in the southern part of Jiang country. Heaven's Wall City. Find Tang Fei. Qin Laosi was startled and panicked. You can't." But this time, Qin Hao had already disappeared. There was a crowd in front of them. Xiao Han, the Blood Kirin, and Zhuo Junshin had also disappeared. Brother Ma Qiang quickly chased after him. Qin Laosi's face was covered in cold sweat. "This group of lawless children, please don't let anything happen to them." Zhuo Ma Qiang was very scared. Qin Hao dared to seduce the fiancée of the pillar of the state general's son. Chapter 130. Quit or Die. The Blood Kirin led him through the crowd. Qin Hao took a shortcut to Tang Manor's gate. The distance was getting closer and closer. Stunned, a past event appeared in his mind. At this moment, he was walking in the city. He suddenly remembered that he had saved a young girl in the explosive Flame Mountain range a few months ago. That young girl is suffering from a cold illness and will not live for long. Qin Hao and the other party had agreed to meet in Heaven's Wall City. Later, because of the annual meeting, Qin Hao forgot about it. "I wonder how that girl is doing. Was he dead or alive? We met by chance and saved her twice. I even left her a prescription to suppress her cold illness. It's up to her luck now." Since they had missed the promise, they could only forget about each other. Qin Hao and her were strangers, so he had already done his best. Thinking about it, with that girl's extraordinary family background, it shouldn't be difficult for her to keep her life. After all, Qin Hao's prescription was enough to suppress the cold. But it could only suppress the cold. Without the red lotus fire to dissolve it within 5 years, she would definitely be frozen into an ice sculpture and lose her vitality. Right now, finding Tang Fei was the main issue. As a fiancée who had been betrothed since childhood, she actually hooked up with a wild man. It was not impossible. At the very least, he should inform the Qin family and cancel the engagement. Qin Hao is not a petty person. At the very least, you can send a letter over. Tang Fei, on the other hand, quietly went to fool around with other men. Qin Hao did not want to be cuckolded. The Blood Kirin led the way, and it didn't take long for them to reach Tang Manor. The Blood Kirin was familiar with the layout of the city. Every day, she wanted to kill her stupid grandfather. Therefore, when she was about to reach the Tang residence, she stopped and said, "It's right in front. Take care of yourselves." After saying that, he disappeared into the crowd. It was inconvenient for her to show herself. Otherwise, the Tang residence would be in danger. Scared, Qin Hao looked at Xiao Han, then at Zhuo Junshin. "I've said it before. No matter what happens, I'll be by your side." Xiao Han's eyes were extremely firm. He even had the urge to give it a try. She didn't think that Qin Hao was here to curry favor with Tang Fei. She wanted to prove that she was stronger than Tang Fei. She had already secretly advanced to the 5th layer of element gathering tier. This was a secret that not even Qin Hao knew. She must give that Tang Fei a show of strength. This life should have died half a year ago. My name is Qin Shin now. Zhui Jun Qin's meaning was clear. I am willing to be the shadow behind Qin Hao and never leave him. Go! Qin Hao walked toward the Tang mansion with a heroic spirit. The Tang residence was quite imposing. 2 stone lions stood at the entrance, each one 10 feet tall, majestic and domineering. This is the Tang residence. Unauthorized personnel are not allowed to enter. Before Qin Hao could enter the school, he was stopped by 6 guards regarding the door. These 6 guards were obviously soldiers from the army. They directly placed their hands on the sabers at their waists. This was a warning to Qin Hao. Step back and live. Step forward and die. Being a man of his word and resolute in his actions had always been the style of a soldier. Among the 6 guards, 5 were in the 8th layer of body tempering tier, and 1 was in the 9th layer of body tempering tier. Xiaohan could not help but be slightly surprised. The large clans in the city were indeed incomparable to those in the small towns. Pockmarked Wang and the others who guarded the Qin family's ancestral hall were only in the 8th layer of body tempering tier. The 8th layer of body tempering tier here was only fit to guard the door. Actually, the guard were not soldiers in the first place. They were deliberately arranged by the pillar of the state, General Wang Ba, to make the Tang residence proud. In fact, the Tang residence was proud of them. How dare you? Zhui Jun Chun stepped forward. How could he allow a mere soldier to behave so atrociously in front of Qin Hao? Qin Hao waved his hand and dismissed Zhui Jun Chun. He said calmly, I want to see Tang Fei. His tone was very calm. As the former Dendi, it was normal for him to come and see a commoner. However, the 6 soldiers were stunned. Then they laughed maniacally. Say it again. Who do you want to see? I want to see Tang Fei. Qin Hao repeated. Ha! Ridiculous. Princess Xiaoyang is not some lowly commoner like you can see. Leave now. Otherwise, you will be killed without mercy. Swoosh. Swoosh. As they spoke, the 6 guards unsheathed their swords. Qin Hao was stunned. Princess Xiaoyang? When did Tang Fei become princess? Traitor. Half a month ago, His Majesty was forced by Wang Ba to confer the title of Princess Xiaoyang to Tang Fei. His purpose was to match her status as Wang Gui. At this moment, the Blood Kirin's voice rang in Qin Hao's ears. Qin Hao turned his head and looked across half the street. He saw the Blood Kirin in the dark. She did not leave. She did not abandon Qin Hao. Qin Hao was touched. The Blood Kirin was a wanted criminal of the Tang residence and was risking her life. Let's see who dares to stop him even if he wants to see a princess, let alone a princess. Xiao Han released the aura of a 5th layer of element gathering tier. The 6 guards' expressions changed. Qin Hao was also shocked. Zhui Jun Qin almost screamed. Miss, we are just following orders. Please do not make things difficult for us. The Tang residence is a famous family of the pillar of the state. There are many experts in the residence. Please do not make things difficult for yourself. The 2 guards spoke one after another. Their tone was much more amiable. The strong should be respected. Moreover, Xiao Han was a great beauty. Women were easier to talk to than men. The guards even kindly reminded her that there were experts in the Tang residence. So, she should not be stupid. As for Qin Hao at the side, he had long been tossed beyond the 9 heavens. Howard, don't be rude. Aya, Captain Xing, nice to meet you. Qin Laosi finally arrived. He took the initiative to greet the guard in the 9th layer of body tempering tier. You are the 4th master of the Qin family's pharmacy. What brings you here? The guard in the 9th layer of body tempering tier immediately sheathed his saber. He seemed to be on good terms with Qin Laosi. To tell you the truth, this is my nephew. The purpose of today's visit. It's a long story. Anyway, we hope to meet Princess Xiaoyang. Qin Laosi showed a bitter face. Since he was already here, he could only go along with Qin Hao's wishes. In fact, which parent did not love their child? In Qin Laosi's eyes, Qin Hao was his own son. Even if he lost his life, he had to grit his teeth and endure. This, the soldier named Captain Xing showed a troubled expression. He was of low status. Even if he said yes, it was useless if the big shots inside did not agree. How about this, fourth master? Let me go to the residents to inform them. Captain Xing could see that Qin Laosi was quite anxious. The Qin family's Luoyinjai was very famous in the city. It was quite popular among the soldiers. Many people had advanced a level because of it. For the soldiers, this undoubtedly increased their chances of survival on the battlefield. All right, Qin Laosi nodded. He looked helplessly at Qin Hao. Sorry to trouble you, Captain Xing. Qin Hao cupped his hands and said, It's so troublesome to meet **TCH. Boy, remember next time, don't call Princess Zhaoyang's name directly. You will be beheaded and your family will be exterminated. Since you are Fourth Master's nephew, I kindly remind you. Fourth Master, please wait for a moment. I will be back soon. Chapter 131. A wicked slave runs wild after Captain Xing left. Qin Hao looked at Xiao Han. When did you break through to the 5th tier of Element Gathering Tier? Last night, Elder Dan Xian's Qi Gathering Pill. Xiao Han's hand unconsciously went to the jade pendant around his neck. His gaze turned to the side as if he wanted to avoid something. Qin Hao nodded. Dan Xian had given Xiao Han 2 gifts. A bottle of Strength Gathering Pills. The Energy Gathering Pill allowed Xiao Han to break through Body Tempering Stage 9. There was also a bottle of Qi Gathering Pills. With Xiao Han's aptitude, if he took a Qi Gathering Pill, he could indeed advance from the 3rd layer of Element Gathering Tier to the 5th layer of Element Gathering Tier. However, Qin Hao felt that there was something strange about Xiao Han. In the past, Xiao Han's eyes were clear and transparent, like a pool of clear water. Qin Hao could see through his thoughts at a glance. Now, Qin Hao was a little confused. This was also the first time he felt a sense of unfamiliarity. He shook his head. People were changing, and even he was changing, let alone Xiao Han. Captain Xing left for a long time and didn't come back, saying, I'll be back soon. This wait made Qin Hao wait in front of the gate for 4 hours. The new year had just passed. Snow was falling, and the cold wind was bone-chilling. If it weren't for the fact that Qin Hao and the others were strong, they would have suffered a lot. Qin Hao took off his white cloak and draped it over Xiao Han, even though Xiao Han was also wearing a cloak. This is too rude. Captain Xing is really unreliable. Zhuo Junshin couldn't bear to watch any longer. How dare you? The 5 armored soldiers angrily rebuked. Their captain was a man of his word. He was definitely not someone who would go back on his word. However, the 5 of them were also very puzzled. The captain seemed to have been gone for too long. At this moment, a lackey who looked like a butler walked out with a lewd laugh. Behind him was Captain Xing judging from the situation. Captain Xing was stopped by someone, and that person deliberately delayed for more than 4 hours to deliberately make things difficult for Qin Hao. Oh, isn't this the former 4th master of the Qin family, Qin Hantian? You're still the same as before. I haven't seen you for many years, but your strength hasn't improved at all. Look at me, even a mere housekeeper of mine is already in the 8th layer of Element Gathering Tier. Ah. As soon as this steward appeared, his words were full of mockery towards Qin Laosi. A country bumpkin is still a country bumpkin. You can't even compare to a slave like me. The lackey felt very proud. Zogo. Qin Laosi's eyes turned cold. This person was the personal butler of the 7th elder, who was now the 2nd elder. Captain Xing was intercepted by him. I say, Qin Hantian, you country bumpkin, do you have nothing better to do? What are you doing in the city? You even came to the high and mighty Tang Mansion. Is this a place you should come to? Hurry up and get lost. Zogo waved his hand repeatedly, as if he was dismissing a beggar. Zogo, Hao only wants to see Xiao Fei. There are some things that need to be discussed face to face. Back then, Zogo had personally experienced Tang Rong being chased out of the clan. Qin Laosi directly stated Qin Hao's request. Xiao Fei? Who are you calling Xiao Fei? Is Princess Zhaoyang, who was conferred the title by the emperor, someone a lowly commoner like you can call by her nickname. The lackey was extremely dissatisfied, but suddenly a thought flashed through his mind. How could he be Qin Dingtian's bastard? He sized up everyone with his gaze, trying to find Qin Hao. Back then, Qin Dingtian had slapped Zhou Go, and he felt that the opportunity for revenge had come. I'm talking to you. The lackey pointed in Qin Hao's direction and walked straight up. However, he walked past Qin Hao and arrived in front of Zhuo Junshin. You must be the bastard of that damn Qin Hao, the pitiful little worm, right? And your appearance is a bit ugly, and your temperament is mediocre. At first glance, you look like a human. If I continue looking, it's not even as good as the first glance. He directly lectured Zhuo Junshin, his words sharp and vicious. Zhuo Junshin was momentarily stunned. Was there something wrong with Zhou Go's eyes? He actually recognized the wrong person. In fact, Zhou Go couldn't be blamed. Qin Hao draped the white cloak over Xiao Han, and his clothes were very thin. Thus, Zhou Go had mistaken him for a servant of the Qin family. On the other hand, Zhuo Junshin was dressed rather well. Zhuo Junshin had been pampered since he was young and was regarded as a genius by the Zhuo family. Naturally, he would have some arrogance. And this must be Qin Hao's bastard. I say, Qin Hao, why don't you take a piss and look at your face? A country bumpkin actually wants to meet the princess. I really feel embarrassed for that damn father of yours. Speaking of which, your father's death was truly wonderful. If not, where will he put his face today? Ha ha ha. Zhou Go pointed at Zhuo Junshin's nose and scolded him. Lord Zhou Go, please conduct yourself with dignity. This is my son. This is the real young Master Qin Hao. Zhuo Maqiang said coldly as he pointed at the thinly dressed Qin Hao. His own son was being bullied by a lackey for no reason. Moreover, he was scolding him in front of Zhuo Maqiang. He even cursed Zhuo Maqiang to die. But Zhuo Maqiang felt that it was worth it. As long as Qin Hao didn't get bullied, it was fine. At this moment, he couldn't help but want to slap Zhou Go. I also have times when I make mistakes. Zhou Go felt deeply humiliated. He had lost the judgment that a housekeeper should have. This was all Qin Hao's fault. You little bastard, I originally thought that you would be decent, but in the end, you're dressed like a lowly servant. You're so shabby. You don't have any temperament or poise. You have a donkey's face and a rotten life. You're not worthy of meeting Princess Xiaoyang. I'll give you a slap on behalf of your short-lived father. How dare you? Impudent. Without waiting for Zhou Go to raise his hand, Zhuo Junshin and Zhuo Maqiang shouted angrily. However, there was someone who moved even faster. Shua, a sword light as clear as water, suddenly flashed. Like a rainbow soaring through the sky, it slashed across Zhou Go's face. Its speed was inconceivably fast. Immediately, blood splattered on Zhou Go's face. This strike was too sudden. Zhou Go's face turned pale as he stood rooted to the ground. You're full of shit. The next strike will cut off your tongue. Xiao Han coldly returned the jade water sword to its scabbard. You actually injured me? Zhou Go couldn't believe it. He stupidly opened his mouth. He turned around bit by bit. His gaze fell on Xiao Han. Then, with bloodshot eyes, Zhou Go roared like a wild donkey. You bastard actually dared to injure me? Die. As the housekeeper of Red Mountain Courtyard in Tang Manor, Zhou Go had a noble status. He was second only to one person and above all. No servants or maids dared to disobey him. Even the house would tremble if he shook his leg. Even the other elders had to show him some respect. Zhou Go himself was in the 8th layer of element gathering tier. His face was slashed by a sword in front of so many commoners in front of his own home. And his opponent was a little girl from the trashy Qin family. This was an absolute humiliation. His power of the 8th layer of element gathering tier erupted. If Zhou Go did not kill Xiao Han, he would not be able to vent his anger. Stop. Children don't know the rules. Qin Lao Si was shocked. He immediately stepped forward to stop them. Zhuo Maqiang also stepped forward. This Zhou Go was in the 8th layer of element gathering tier. Qin Lao Si was definitely not his match. The moment the Qin family moved, the armor guards in front of the door also moved. The scene was chaotic, attracting countless passers-by to watch. Someone actually dared to behave atrociously in Tang manner. This was the manner of Princess Zhaoyang, conferred by His Majesty. It was the in-law of the pillar of the state, great general. Chapter 132. I'm a Saint King, back off. Zhui Jun Shun roared, releasing the aura of the first layer of element gathering tier, intimidating the 5 charging soldiers. Seeing this, Captain Xing drew his saber, but before he could fully draw his saber, a curved saber was already on his neck. Captain Xing immediately stiffened, not daring to move. A row of cold sweat slid down his cheeks. The onlookers exclaimed. This group of daring fanatics had subdued the guards of the pillar of the state general. It seemed that they had some skills, but in an instant they shook their heads, because Zhou Go had attacked. This Zhou Go was truly in the 8th layer of element gathering tier. Qin Laosi and Zhuo Maqiang were no match for him. His palms were wrapped in thick origin qi. With 2 pung-pung sounds, he hit Qin Laosi and Zhuo Maqiang in the chest, causing them to vomit blood. The people of the Qin family's pharmacy overestimated themselves. How dare they behave atrociously in the Tang manner? They provoked Zhou Go, who they shouldn't have provoked. Everyone knew of Zhou Go's evil reputation in the Tang manner. He would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. He was truly a villain. The people of the Qin family's pharmacy probably wouldn't survive. Ha ha ha. Zhou Go laughed wildly. Trash is trash. You can't even take a hit from me. Back then, my master bestowed Qin Shilong with a mouthful of saliva. Today, I'll also reward you, Qin Laosi, with a mouthful of golden liquid. Bah! He sneezed, and yellow phlegm flew into his mouth, flying towards Qin Laosi's head. But this phlegm didn't land on Qin Laosi's head as expected. Instead, it was swept back into Zhou Go's throat by a gust of wind. This scene was extremely strange. Ugh! Zhou Go felt extremely disgusted. He bent over and vomited nonstop. His face was green. Who plotted against me? He roared, wanted to find the culprit. At this moment, a pressure suddenly came from above his head. This pressure was very weak at first, but it made Zhou Go, who was in the 8th layer of element gathering tier, feel extremely fearful. He raised his head to look. He saw a brick the size of a palm fall. As it got closer, the brick became bigger. By the time it landed on Zhou Go's face, it had already turned into a solid rock the size of a water tank. The pressure from the boulder made Zhou Go lose his balance and fall to the ground. This item was the low-grade weapon that Qin Hao had snatched from the old demon of the Black Mountain. The flipping person's seal. Moreover, it was an illusory weapon. My lord, please spare my lowly life. Zhou Go was from the Tang residence, so he had quite a good eye. The thing on top of his head was definitely not an ordinary item. If he was hit, he would definitely turn into a bloody mess. He was so scared that his face turned pale and he begged for mercy. This scene also shocked all the people present. So you're also afraid of death? A cold laugh rang out. Qin Hao flicked his finger, and the wind around Zhou Go dissipated. It's you. Zhou Go was stunned at first. Then he was furious. The person who stuffed his saliva back into his mouth was that little bastard Qin Hao. Yes, it's me. Qin Hao's right hand pressed down through the air. Buzz. The flipping person's seal above Zhou Go's head, like a towering mountain, fell down a bit and stuck in front of Zhou Go's eyes. I was wrong. Young Master Qin Hao, please spare my lowly life. Zhou Go was pressed to the ground, and his head was squeezed between the stone slab and the flipping person's seal. As long as Qin Hao waved his hand casually, he would immediately be squeezed into a bloody mess. At this moment, Zhou Go's heart was shocked. His soul was shaken. His body was numb. His face looked as if he had swallowed feces, which was uncomfortable. Qin Hao, who he regarded as a country bumpkin, could decide his life and death with a snap of his fingers. Tang Fei, where is she? Qin Hao walked over coldly. Zhou Go swallowed his saliva and felt the pressure from above his head. He had to say it even if he didn't want to. The princess is not in the Tang residence, but in the residence of the boiling pot general in Monarch City. You lied to me? Qin Hao's eyes turned cold, and his palms suddenly shook. Creak. The flipping person seal squeezed Zhou Go's head into the stone slab. The stone slab cracked, and even the sound of bones cracking could be heard. Everything I said is true. The princess is really in the great general's residence, waiting on the young master Wang Gui. The two of them are most likely already in bed, having sex. Zhou Go's palms hit the ground frantically. His eyes were bloodshot, and he was so frightened that he screamed. It was fine if he didn't say anything. The moment he opened his mouth, the entire city would be shaken. Tang Fei had sex with Wang Gui. She came from a prestigious family, and was even bestowed the title of Princess Zhaoyang by the current emperor. However, she didn't keep her chastity and lost her virginity. This was a huge scandal. This was supposed to be the Tang residence's secret. Zhou Go was the second elder's trusted aide, and he accidentally heard this secret. When he screamed, the entire street saw how unbearable Tang Fei was. F***CK. This is simply a strange story. Princess Zhaoyang is a fickle woman, as cheap as a brothel whore. If I were her father, I would kill myself immediately. Shameless and a disgrace to the family. She's even worse than the daughters of our common families. This barrage of curses made even the armored soldiers feel ashamed. Tang Fei instantly became as famous as a prostitute in a brothel from the high and mighty Princess Zhaoyang. Her behavior was even worse than the incident between Qin Dingtian and Tang Rong. Tang Fei was the bestowed Princess Zhaoyang by the emperor. This scandal quickly spread in front of the Tang residence, and it became a hot topic in the city overnight. Hey, brother, did you know? The Tang residence's patriarch's daughter was... Hey, buddy, Princess Zhaoyang traveled thousands of miles to send. Did you hear? The Tang residence's patriarch's daughter is unable to endure the thirst. The aristocratic circle is really messy. That slut. When will she be back? Qin Hao was so angry that his veins were popping out. Tang Fei was so shameless. She traveled thousands of miles to the Monarch City, and it was during the new year. At most 1 month. Young Master Qin Hao is merciful and spare my worthless life. At this point, Zhou Go couldn't be bothered to care about Princess Zhaoyang. He only wanted to live. Spare your life? Fine. Qin Hao lifted Zhou Go's collar and gave him a slap. Pa! I'm doing this for my brother Qin Shun. Pa! This is for my fourth uncle and Uncle Mo Chong. Pa! This is for disrespecting my father, Qin Dingtian. Pa! This slap is for humiliating me too much. Qin Hao kept on slapping Zhou Go, causing him to sway left and right. Zhou Go's 2 rows of teeth were all knocked out. His technique was exactly the same as when the drunkard slapped the tall and skinny elder. In the blink of an eye, Zhou Go's head was already swollen. His heart was filled with hatred, and he wanted to commit suicide. Back then, Qin Dingtian didn't hit him so hard. However, Qin Hao gave him over 100 slaps across his face. In front of the public, at the entrance of the Tang residence, he wouldn't have the face to meet anyone in the future, let alone establish himself in the Red Mountain courtyard. You come here. Qin Hao threw away Zhou Go, whose face was swollen like a bun, and pointed at Captain Xing, who was scared silly. Yes, young master. What orders do you have? Captain Xing knelt and trembled. At this moment, he didn't dare to show any disrespect, let alone contempt. Send this to the Tang residence's patriarch. Tell him, the son of the former Qin Dingtian, the current Saint King of the Fengli Temple, is ashamed of the Tang residence. Qin Hao's spatial ring lit up, and he threw the marriage contract on Captain Xing's face. Boom! Captain Xing's mind shook. Spatial artifact? And it was of such a high level. It was 1,000 times better than the little turtle prince's Sumeru pouch. But what did Qin Hao just say? He was the Saint King of the Fengli Temple? The little turtle prince was only respected as the saint by the Guihai sect. Qin Hao was respected as the Saint King by the Fengli Temple. I will go right away. Chapter 133. Shame on the Tang Mansion Sheen, how stored the flipping person seal back into his spatial ring. Since Tang Fei was not in the manor, there was no need to see her. He turned around and was about to leave. Zogo's eyes were filled with malice. Qin Hao walked up to him and lifted him up again, pressing his face against Qin Hao's. Look at me, clearly. You can look down on me, and you can look down on all those who have no power or influence. But I want to tell you, a dog will always be a dog and will never be able to become a master. After he finished speaking, a loud smack was heard. A slap landed on Zogo's face. This slap contained a dense amount of essence chi, causing Zogo to howl in pain. Well done. This is so King satisfying. Serves Zogo right. He will die a horrible death sooner or later. Sob sob. Daughter, a kind-hearted young master has avenged you. Cheers could be heard from the crowd. There was even an old man who was weeping towards the heavens. His youngest daughter was a maidservant of the Tang Mansion. She had accidentally broken a cup in the Red Mountain courtyard and had been beaten to death by Zogo's vicious servants. His methods were so cruel that it made one's hair stand on end. Now, Qin Hao had resolved the hatred in the hearts of all the people in the city who had suffered injustice. Zogo couldn't bear the humiliation at this moment. He knew that he wasn't a match for Qin Hao. The seal in Qin Hao's hand was too fierce. However, after being scolded by so many commoners who looked down on him, he felt like dying. Qin Hao, you and I are absolutely irreconcilable. Qin Hao suddenly stopped in his tracks. Another person who could not live under the same sky. In the past, those who were absolutely irreconcilable with me, none of them had a good ending. Hopefully, Zogo's luck would be better and he wouldn't be killed by a single palm strike. With a pout, Qin Hao turned around and spat out a mouthful of saliva. Spit, this mouthful of saliva, which was mixed with yuan qi, flew over 10 meters away and hit Zogo's head like a bullet. Duong, a cluster of sparks exploded. Zogo fainted from the impact of the spit. He was utterly humiliated. This spit is for my grandfather. Ha ha ha. Qin Hao was extremely happy. He clasped his hands behind his back and took a step forward. Everywhere he passed, the commoners would step aside, their eyes filled with gratitude and admiration. Even though this young man's clothes were thin, his figure was incomparably tall. With his hands behind his back, he looked proud and arrogant. In short, there was only one word. That's awesome. A young man in the crowd said excitedly, and gave Qin Hao a thumbs up. Yeah, this person's arrogance is unparalleled, and his reputation is so great that we can only look up to him. TSK, the Holy King of Fengli Temple. Another young man with small eyes said. His words were filled with admiration for Qin Hao. Sage ruler? How come I didn't know that our sect had a saint king? The young man from before was stunned. That's right. I've never heard of him before. This brat is swindling people, using the name of our Fengli Temple to scare people. He's too despicable. I'll fight it out with him. Are you crazy? The young man with small eyes grabbed his companion. Qin Hao was powerful. From the power of his spit, he could tell that he was at least in the 5th layer of element gathering tier. Moreover, he held a weapon in his hand. Going up to fight him was no different from seeking death. Then what do we do? One of them said unwillingly, go back and report to the elders. Let the elders tell the sect leader that someone is ruining the reputation of Fengli Temple. Kill this bastard to vent our anger. Let's go. The 2 inner sect disciples immediately disappeared into the crowd. In the distance, on the roof of an extremely tall building in Tang Manor, a middle-aged man saw everything and couldn't help but smile coldly. Then, he slowly went downstairs and walked towards a secret room. The courtyard he was in was called Green Mountain Courtyard. Green Mountain Courtyard was the courtyard of the Great Elder. It was at odds with the second Elder's Red Mountain Courtyard. Father, the middle-aged man came to the secret room and bowed to an old man in white robes. The old man in white robes was sitting on the bed with his eyes narrowed. His whole body emitted a thick green light. This was a Yuan Shi-level figure. Furthermore, he was able to restrain his aura with ease. He was like a dragon bell. It was obvious that he was an extremely powerful yuan sure. The child from back then, he still came? The old man said indifferently. With his hearing ability, he had already heard everything that was happening outside clearly. Yes, the middle-aged man nodded. Qin Hao really overestimated himself and dared to barge into Tang Manor. However, that slap on Zogo's face was quite satisfying. In any case, Xiaorong's blood flows in his veins. As expected of my grandson, the old man's solemn face revealed a rare smile. This surprised the middle-aged man. His father hadn't smiled for 16 years. How is it? Does he look like your sister? The old man asked. The middle-aged man nodded and then shook his head. Yes, but he looks more like Qin Dingtian. This is infuriating, old man. The old man slammed the table and stood up. He was suddenly enraged and opened his eyes in an instant. That gaze was like the edge of sword. No one dared to look at it directly. Father, please calm down, the middle-aged man said in fear. Forget it. For Xiaorong's sake, arrange for people to keep an eye on Red Mountain Courtyard. Be sure to protect that child, the old man ordered. Yes, the middle-aged man didn't dare to neglect and turned to leave the room. At the same time, Captain Xing took the marriage contract and went straight to the Tang Manor's patriarch's courtyard. Get out of my way. He glared like an injured tiger rampaging. The maids and servants were so scared that they all avoided him. However, in front of the door of his study, he was stopped by two golden-clothed men. Little soldier, how dare you break into the patriarch's study? Get lost. While they were talking, a man's body trembled with green light. He casually used his vitality to flip Captain Xing to the ground, causing him to vomit blood. Damn you! You provoked a strong enemy from my general and offended the holy king of Fengli Temple. Good, very good. Just wait and see. Captain Xing also threw caution to the wind. He grabbed the marriage contract and smashed it in the man's face, shouting loudly, Tang Xian. Someone sent a message. The son of Qin Dingtian, now the holy king of Fengli Temple, is ashamed of the Tang Manor. After roaring, he strode away. He left the Tang Manor completely and prepared to return to the imperial city, because the Tang Manor was too smelly. And the man whose face was hit by the marriage contract trembled. He was about to kill Captain Xing from behind. Wait! At this moment, a voice sounded from the study. Then, the door opened, and a white-faced middle-aged man walked out. This person was the current patriarch of the Tang Manor. He was also the one who once admired Tang Rong. Tang Xian. What happened? Tang Xian asked. Because his study was soundproof, he didn't hear the noise outside the manor. Clan head, Xing Guiqiang barged in just now. So I made a move to punish him. Who knew that this person would spout nonsense and publicly insult the clan head? He even howled about how he was Qin Dingtian's son and the current Saint King of the Phoenix Glass Palace. The man replied, What did you say? Tang Xian's tiger body trembled violently. Oh, right. Xing Guiqiang also left this. The man handed over the marriage contract. After Tang Xian saw it, his pupils dilated. This was the marriage contract he left for Tang Rong back then. He hurriedly opened it to take a look. As a result, he felt a sweetness in his throat at first glance, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. There was a big word written on this marriage contract. Rest. Did he leave any words just now? Tang Xian asked again. He said, The Tang Manor is ashamed. Pfft. Chapter 134. Show me the way. After Qin Hao beat up Zogo, he prepared to go to the Qin family's drugstore to take a look. Tang Fei and Wang Gui were still having fun and would only be back in about a month. At that time, Qin Hao would have to make another trip to the Tang residence and divorce this slut on the spot. Not bad. The holy king of Fengli Temple. The Blood Kirin's little hand slapped Qin Hao's shoulder. She was watching from the dark and felt great. When she had tried to assassinate the second elder, Zogo had interfered many times. He had even put the Blood Kirin in danger a few times. Half a year ago, Zogo sent people to chase the Blood Kirin all the way to Akita town. If it wasn't for Qin Hao's help, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Qin Hao felt rather embarrassed by the words Sage King. In fact, if he hadn't used this false reputation to intimidate Captain Xing, the other party might not have dared to bring the marriage contract to Tang Xian at all costs. All of this was just Qin Hao's little tricks. But he also knew that he might anger the Fengli Temple. As long as there was a Dan Xian, it was fine. How? Where are you going? Qin Laosi followed behind Qin Hao. He was confused. Qin Hao had already walked 3 streets with his hands behind his back. Oh, let's go to our pharmacy. Our medicine shop is over there. Qin Laosi was speechless as he pointed at the living area in the city. Qin Hao felt extremely awkward. This was his first time in the Heaven's Wall city, and he didn't know where the medicine shop was. They walked in the direction that Qin Laosi pointed. Not long after, Qin Hao arrived at the living area. Immediately, an eye-catching signboard came into view. Qin Family's Pharmacy. The location of the medicine store was particularly good, and the facade was large enough. It could be seen that Qin Laosi was a good helmsman. At this moment, below the 3-story wooden building of the medicine store, low-level elementalists had gathered in front of the door. They were all body-tempering stage 3 to stage 5. There was a sea of people, and it was extremely crowded. Qin Hao couldn't help but be startled. It seemed that Luoyang Liquid's business was better than he had imagined. But then, he didn't think so. The signboard of the Qin family's pharmacy suddenly exploded right in front of Qin Hao's eyes, and a figure flew out from the crowd. This figure was flying really high. Qin Hao recognized this figure. It was Qin Shilong's trusted aide, Qin Liao. During the annual meeting, Lu Yu and Qin Laosi returned to the clan. Therefore, he sent Qin Liao to temporarily take care of the business. But today, Qin Liao was sent flying so high. Qin Hao instantly understood that the guy at the door wasn't here to buy medicine. He was here to cause trouble. Bang! Qin Liao fell heavily to the ground. Before he could stand up, a large foot stepped on his face. Ha ha ha! You trash of the 7th-stage body-tempering realm dare to challenge me. Songshi, you must be tired of living. Obediently hand over 100,000 taels of silver today, and I'll let your Qin family's pharmacy go. If you don't, creak. Songshi's foot stepped on Qin Liao's face, causing him to grimace in pain. Master Song, we really don't have that much money. I hope you can put in a few good words for us in front of Master Hai and give us some time. Qin Liao said anxiously. 100,000 taels wasn't a small amount. You don't have that much money? The Qin family's business is so good. You dare say you don't have that much money? Songshi was furious. He kicked Qin Liao, wanting to cripple him. Bang! When the kick landed, Songshi was the first to fly out, and he flew much higher than Qin Liao. He was like a star rising in the sky. Damn! Master Song is flying really high. Could it be that he's using some powerful technique? Master Song is at the peak of the 3rd stage of Element Gathering Realm. He's really amazing. Yeah, he's flying really high. The crowd below kept praising and flattering him. But then they felt that something was wrong. Songshi was flying too high, and they couldn't see his shadow. Just as the crowd was puzzled, a scream rang out. Aya, catch me, King, catch me. Songshi turned into a ball of flesh and fell down. Even with his power of the 3rd stage of Element Gathering Realm, he couldn't resist the origin chi that lifted him up. This was really too terrifying. But Songshi didn't have an undeserved reputation. In the face of danger, he curled his body into a ball and put his head between his pants to protect his vital parts. Quick, catch Master Song. Master Song must have gone mad. The crowd was extremely anxious and raised their arms high. However, the moment Songshi smashed down, the crowd suddenly scattered in all directions. Songshi's speed was too shocking. If he was hit, he would definitely die. Aya, you bunch of untrustworthy scum. Boom! Songshi's head hit the ground, creating a deep hole. Even though he protected his vital parts, his head was still buzzing from the impact. He was extremely angry. Someone dared to sneak attack him. Before he could get up, a foot stepped on his face, just like how he stepped on Qin Liao. You call this delivering shit? Death? Or corpse? Qin Hao said expressionlessly. As he spoke, he exerted force with his foot. Creak! The flesh on Songshi's face was squeezed out. Sir, please spare my life. This lowly one is Song Shi. Lion means majestic and domineering. Song Shi begged for mercy and fear. From the strength of the foot on his face, Qin Hao was much stronger than him. Young master? Woo-woo. Young master. Qin Liao was moved to tears and immediately got up. If Qin Hao had come a little later, Qin Liao would have been crippled. You're from the Qin family? Song Shi was stunned. Then he saw Qin Laosi in the crowd. Then, the young man who stepped on his head must also be from the Qin family. Good. You little bastard. Not only did you not pay the rent, you even dare to injure me. Master Hai will not forgive you. Why don't you hurry up and kowtow to me as an apology, then treat me to a comfortable meal. Perhaps I can even put in a few good words for you in front of Master Hai. Creak. Qin Hao exerted force with his foot again. Young hero, please spare my life. Please spare my life. Song Shi's courage disappeared in an instant. His face was crushed by Qin Hao, and blood flowed out. However, please spare his life. He's Hai Dafu's man. Qin Laosi hurriedly stopped him. Hai Dafu was a reputable figure in Heaven's Wall City. Even the Tang family didn't dare to provoke him. Hai Dafu? Qin Hao was stunned. Why did it sound so familiar? Once when we were hunting, there was a fatty who offered 20,000 taels of gold to buy my jade pendant. At this time, Xiao Han stepped forward and said. He saw Qin Hao's confusion. I see. Qin Hao smiled. Heaven's Wall City's Hai Dafu was the elder brother of Exploding Flame City's Hai Fei Zi. They were really fated. Are you here to collect rent on behalf of Hai Dafu? Qin Hao stared coldly at Song Shi. He was sure that Gui Hai was in charge of this residential area. Yes. Hai Dafu instructed me. I'm just following orders. Young master, please don't kill me. Song Shi was scared to death. I want to see Hai Dafu. Lead the way. Qin Hao kicked Song Shi's butt. Song Shi immediately jumped up. The pressure on him was lifted. He wanted to use Hai Dafu's name to scold Qin Hao to vent his anger. At this time, Qin Hao said that he was going to look for Hai Dafu. Song Shi was immediately amused. There was a path to heaven, but you didn't take it. There was no door to hell, but you barged in. Fine, I'll bring you to the Hai family and let Hai Dafu kill you. Young master, please follow me. Thinking of this, Song Shi's attitude was very respectful. However, his face was very sinister. However, you can't. I'll follow him to the Hai family. Qin Laosi said anxiously. Hai Dafu didn't have much strength. However, his lackeys were very powerful. Moreover, there was a Yuan Shi expert among them. It's fine. Qin Hao wasn't afraid at all. He strode behind Song Shi. At the same time, he remembered that Hai Dafu had given him a jade thumb ring in his interspatial ring. He seemed to have said that if Qin Hao came to Heaven's Wall City one day and looked for his elder brother, he would grant him any request. Chapter 135. Tomboy Paper He followed Song Shi to the Sea Mansion. The Sea Mansion was extremely imposing and magnificent. Under Song Shi's guidance, their journey was smooth and unobstructed. Master C is most likely done for this time. Yeah, we're short on funds. That's why they're forcing the rent of the living quarters to increase. They're trying to put up a desperate struggle. It's a pity that even Hao Fuyo and Zhen Yuqian, who are the closest to him, have cut ties with Uncle Hai. It seems like the Sea Mansion is about to collapse. Along the way, the servants in the mansion discussed in low voices. Their expressions were hurried, and the entire mansion was shrouded in dark clouds. Qin Hao listened carefully as he walked. It seemed that Hai Dafu had encountered some trouble. Perhaps he had lost money in the business and had no backup funds. Even his best business partners, Hao Fuyo and Zhen Yuqian, abandoned him at the critical moment. Counselor Hao's reason for quitting is really far-fetched. He's using his son who can't display his masculinity as an excuse. What is this? Rich Zhen's son is soft as soon as his pants are taken off. He and Minister Hao's son are simply a pair of weirdos. That's right. These old masters squander money like it doesn't matter. They don't have the slightest idea of the hardships of our people. This is the wrath of the heavens. They're so rich, and their son married 8 beautiful wives. TSK, TSK. In the end, one of them couldn't get hard, and the other one went soft after taking off his pants. He could only look at the beauties with his own eyes, but he couldn't lay his hands on them. This is the most painful thing in the world. Ha ha ha. Some of the bolder servants covered their mouths and snickered as if they were gloating. Can't even get hard? Are you soft after taking off your pants? Qin Hao was stunned. Hao Fuguwei and Zhen Fuguei's sons were really strange. To put it bluntly, this was an illness. But this was not the reason for Hao Fuyo and Zhen Qianqian to withdraw their investment. They wanted to abandon Fu Dahai. Following Song Shi's lead, a person rushed towards them. This person had a ferocious face and was 8 feet tall. His physique was incomparably sturdy, comparable to Qi Xiong. There were also more than 50 beauty moles on his face. Most importantly, and she was a woman, she was aggressive and carried a big bag on her back. Obviously, she was a servant girl. She wanted to leave the sea residence. Chui, even you are going to abandon Uncle Hai. Song Shi hurriedly stopped in his tracks. He seemed to have a very close relationship with the servant girl and blocked this majestic and fierce man. No, it was a tough woman. Stop flattering me. Master Hai is about to fall. If we don't leave now, when will we? I'm as beautiful as a flower, and my skin is as soft as snow. How can I waste my youth in such a useless place? I'm going to the royal city to participate in the beauty pageant and become the emperor's woman. Get out of my way. The heroine named Chui raised her thick arm and pushed Song Shi away. Hiss. Qin Hao sucked in a cold breath. This Chui was obviously not a martial artist. Song Shi was unable to stop the sweep of her arm. Song Shi was at least in the 3rd layer of element gathering tier. Chui, please don't be so heartless. Have you forgotten that wonderful night? The moon hung high in the sky. The wind mixed with the fragrance of the soil. We were in love in a dense field of corn. We were in love, both willing. That was the best time of my life. My heart, my liver, my body melted at that moment. I was intoxicated by you, obsessed with you. I wrote poems for you. I was still for you. Please don't leave me. Song Shi was crying his heart out. He threw himself on the ground and hugged Chui's strong leg that was like a giant elephant's. This scene of life and death was very moving. Hiss. Qin Hao sucked in another breath of cold air. Song Shi was the best among men, a fighter among the best. He could even lay his hands on a woman like this. At this moment, Qin Hao had a whole new level of respect for Song Shi. We've already broken up. I feel very embarrassed that you're hugging my leg like this. Chui lifted her leg and stepped on Song Shi's head. Just kick me to death. I don't want to live anymore. Without you, my life has no meaning. Song Shi refused to let go no matter what. I've seen shameless people, but I've never seen someone as cheap as you. Let go of me. As she spoke, Chui swung the big bag on her back and smashed it on Song Shi's back. Pung! Song Shi was smashed until his limbs were stretched out, and he was stuck to the ground like a pancake. Hiss! Qin Hao sucked in another breath of cold air. If Chui was holding a big hammer, Song Shi would have been turned into a bloody pulp. Don't blame me for being ruthless. You can only blame yourself for being useless, a pauper. From now on, our relationship is over. Chui lifted her chubby face. Her 50-plus beauty moles were like starlight in the dark. She carried the bag and walked out of the sea mansion, looking very confident. Women are all like this. Why do you have to be cheap? Looking at Song Shi, who was crying on the ground, Qin Hao shook his head helplessly. Young master, you don't understand. In front of great love, what's wrong with a man being cheap? But I don't understand. I didn't provoke Chui. Song Shi cried. You didn't provoke her. But being poor is your fault. If you were as rich as a country and had mountains of gold and silver, not to mention Chui, even Xiao Feng and Xiao Hua wouldn't leave you, right? Qin Hao stepped forward and patted Song Shi's shoulder to comfort him. Song Shi's body shook as he suddenly understood. That's right. Women are ruthless because of money. If Master Hai didn't fall, how could I lose Chui? Money's a good thing. By the sky, by the land, and by the air in between. As long as I have money, I can shut the living up and let the dead breathe. Thank you for your advice, young Master Qin. I will never forget it. Songshur was very grateful. Stop flattering me. Hurry up and lead the way. Qin Hao kicked Songshur's butt. Songshur immediately jumped up and wiped the sweat off his forehead. He almost forgot about the important matter. He looked at Chui's back unwillingly. That back was so heartless. Today, you made me unable to climb up. In the future, I will make you regret it. Songshur mumbled with a lofty ideal. In his heart, he didn't hate Qin Hao as much anymore. In order to express his gratitude to Qin Hao, he decided to let Qin Hao die in the High Mansion. Who asked this little bastard to see him kneeling in front of a woman? Therefore, Qin Hao deserved to die. They arrived at the depths of the High Mansion. This was an extremely desolate courtyard, and it was completely out of tune with the splendor of the outside. Weeds were overgrown here. The thick mud walls were covered with ghost vines. There were several places that had collapsed. The rotten door gave off a moldy smell. There were even worms wriggling in the wood. In the courtyard, there was only a dilapidated, thatched hut. Young Master, Master Hai is in the house. Songshur pointed at the thatched hut and revealed a gloomy face. You're not lying to me? Although Qin Hao sensed someone's aura inside, he still felt that it was strange. How would I dare to lie to young Master? Please go in quickly. Songshur's expression was very anxious. Qin Hao didn't say much. He stepped in like a king without a trace of fear. But when he took a step in, guards, someone wants to assassinate Master Hai. Songshur, who was behind him, pushed Qin Hao into the room. With a howl, he disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. It was also at this moment that an extremely powerful aura erupted from the courtyard. Chapter 136. How can I not be happy? Origin Master Realm. Qin Hao was shocked. This person was not an ordinary Yuan Master, but a 6-star Yuan Master. However, Qin Hao did not panic at all. Even if he resisted, it would be useless. Just as the gray-robed old man's palm was about to hit him, Qin Hao raised his arm high. In his palm, he held up a jade thumb ring. Thumb ring? The gray-robed old man's expression changed, and he promptly dispersed his palm power. As Hai Dafu's most loyal servant, he was very familiar with this thumb ring. This was the symbol of Hai Dafu's identity, and it was something that he always carried with him. However, the old man did not think that it was Qin Hao who snatched Hai Dafu. Qin Hao did not even have the chance to do so. No matter when or where, the old man would be in the open or in the dark to protect Uncle C. Then, there was only one conclusion. This thumb ring belonged to young Master Hai of Explosive Flame City. Master, an important guest has arrived. The old man's attitude instantly became extremely respectful. He bowed deeply in front of Qin Hao. Come in. A lazy voice sounded from the thatched cottage. Young Master, please. The old man gestured with his hand. Qin Hao nodded and walked towards the thatched cottage with the thumb ring in his hand. Although he had been tricked by that bastard Songshur, this was still Hai Dafu's courtyard. Friends from afar? Aren't you happy? Before he stepped through the door, an elegant phrase rang out from within the room. Following that, the poem turned into a sobbing tone. But I really can't be happy today. I'm done for. Qin Hao paused. Interesting. He pushed open the door. Creak. A thick cloud of dust fell from above. Qin Hao almost collapsed the entire thatched hut. Seeing this, the old man in the courtyard hurriedly swept out a strand of yuan qi to stabilize the house. Then he wiped the sweat off his forehead. If the house collapsed and crushed Hai Dafu to death, then it would really be a dereliction of duty. Uncle Hai did not have the slightest bit of strength. Qin Hao was also speechless. The house was too fragile. Fortunately, he was quick enough to avoid the falling pile of dust. It's you? When Hai Dafu saw Qin Hao, he was stunned. Wasn't this crippled Qin, who had come first in the hunt at Autumn Wind Mountain? Uncle Hai's photographic memory is truly admirable. Qin Hao bowed elegantly. After all, he was here to ask for help. However, this room was really unflattering. It was filled with a moldy smell. The room was in a mess. On the left was a rusty iron pot with a hole in the bottom. On the right was a set of decaying tables and chairs, which would probably be broken if he sat on them. There was a bed in front of him. It was an ordinary hard bed in a commoner's house. The richest man in Heaven's Wall City, who was known as the richest man in Heaven's Wall City, was sitting on this bed. As Haidafu inadvertently twisted his body, the bed was in danger of collapsing at any time. Kid from the Qin family, why are you looking for me? Haidafu did not put on any airs and asked politely. Qin Hao smiled and extended the jade thumb ring in his hand in front of Haidafu. Little brother's keepsake? Haidafu recognized it at a glance. Moreover, he unconsciously turned the thumb ring on his thumb. His thumb ring was exactly the same as Qin Hao's. In an instant, he also understood the purpose of Qin Hao's visit. He must be trying to use his little brother's relationship to get close to him and ask for money. I'm sorry. Normally, this thumb ring would be a priceless treasure in my eyes. However, today, I can't even give you a copper coin. How about this? My sleeping robe is not bad. I bought it for 10 taels of silver. I'll give it to you. As he spoke, Haidafu undressed in front of Qin Hao. He seemed to be very generous. No. Uncle Hai, you must have misunderstood. I'm not here to ask for clothes. Qin Hao hurriedly said. Then why are you looking for me? In Haidafu's eyes, anyone who approached him must be doing it for money. Actually, I don't have any business. I'm here on behalf of Uncle Hai from Exploding Flame City to greet you and see if you have any difficulties. Qin Hao's words were filled with hidden meaning, trying to dig out the secret in Haidafu's heart. It would have been better if he did not ask. Now that he asked, Haidafu was moved to tears. In any case, we're brothers. Although back then, I quarreled with my little brother and swore to never contact him again. In this difficult moment, only he would think of me. Haidafu cried his heart out, as if he wanted to cry all his grievances to Qin Hao. Qin Hao curled his lips. Your brother would think of you in this difficult moment? That's right. Back at the auction, Haidafu was afraid that Qin Hao would kill him. Therefore, he brought up his big brother to make Qin Hao feel that Haidafu was a fat sheep. Then, Haidafu would come to extort money from him. This was indeed because he thought of you when he was in danger. However, Qin Hao could not say this out loud. I heard from the servants in the residence. You seem to be doing a big business and are in urgent need of funds, right? Qin Hao probed. This question caused Haidafu to be incomparably furious. He slapped the bed, causing the wooden planks to fly in all directions, smashing onto Haidafu. Qin Hao did not have the time to be surprised. Haidafu came out from the wood again. Yes, I am in need of money, very in need of money. I'm almost finished. My entire money empire is going to be finished. Not to mention the shortage of funds. Even how Fuyo and Jin Yuyu stabbed me in the back at the critical moment. They are short-sighted and do not believe in my ability. In fact, once I get through this crisis, how big the profits will be, even I do not dare to imagine. But when I have money, I am a big boss. When I have no money, I am even worse than a grandson. How Fuge abandoned me, Jin Yuqian abandoned me, and even the maids and servants in the mansion in these few days either left or ran away, all abandoned me. Ha! I usually treated them well and gave them a lot of red packets. When I needed help the most, I had no friends, no partners, and no brothers. Even the servants felt ashamed of me. At this point, Haidafu really saw through the hearts of these beasts. Regarding this, Qin Hao was also very touched. As the saying goes, a single cent stumps a hero. When one needed money the most, even a single cent was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. I'm not convinced. If no one helps me, I will grit my teeth and bear it myself. I will vigorously collect rent. As long as I get through this crisis, I will become the richest man in the whole of Western Lyon. At that time, all my friends, partners, and brothers can go eat shit. Master, not everyone will leave you. At least, I, Old Six, will still be here. An old voice sounded from outside the room. It was that 6-star Yuan master. Haidafu had saved his life in the past. This old man's abilities were all thanks to Hai Fei Zi's money. He owed him a great debt of gratitude. Not only him, but all the Yuan masters in the entire high residence were the same. Oh, then I would like to hear what big business Master Hai is doing. Qin Hao was very interested in the treasure Hai Dafu had discovered. After all, this treasure made Hai Dafu so arrogant. Once he got through this crisis, he would become the richest man in the whole of Western Liang. Actually, I don't know what it is either. In short, I have invested all my family's assets into it. There is no way back. Hai Dafu made a long story short. His business was so big that it made Qin Hao dumbfounded. This was because Hai Dafu's market had reached the Luo Shui Empire. This was extremely shocking. However, he was a nostalgic person and was willing to hide in the small Jiang kingdom. Otherwise, with his ability and status, he would be ranked among the top in the business circle of the Luo Shui Empire. As for where he invested his money, even Hai Dafu himself did not know. Chapter 137. Ancient Prescription of Pills. Aren't you just wasting your breath? Even Hai Dafu himself didn't know what kind of deal it was or where the money went. This made Qin Hao speechless. No wonder Hao Fuyo and Jin quit when they had the money. Only a fool would be crazy with you. That's why I said they were short-sighted. That's a priceless treasure. I only need half a month, and my fund will be operational again. For now, we'll set a small goal for him, and that's to force him to spend 100 million. No, 50 million should be enough. But I can't even get 1 million. Hai Dafu covered his face and cried bitterly. The treasure was almost in his hands. He was only one shovel away, and he would have made a fortune. He really couldn't accept it. Are you sure 50 million taels of silver is enough? Qin Hao pondered and decided to help Hai Dafu. In any case, he had so much money in his spatial ring that he couldn't spend it all. Since he had nowhere to spend it at the moment, he might as well snowball and earn 100 million from him. I don't need 50 million. 30 million will do too. Once I get through this crisis, my assets will be operational again. Hai Dafu's gaze was unusually certain. This gave Qin Hao a lot of confidence. Okay, I'll help you. I'll give you this amount. Qin Hao held out 5 fingers. 500 million? Hai Dafu's eyes were as round as saucers, and he stood up with a thud. Not 500 million. Qin Hao shook his head. 50 million? Hai Fei Zi's face lit up. 50 million could make up for the shortage of funds. Not really. Qin Hao shook his head again. Could it be 5 million? Hai Dafu's face turned ugly. 5 million was a little too little, but it was better than nothing. You're thinking too much. There's no 5 million. It can't be 500,000, right? Hai Dafu felt a chill run down his spine. 500,000 was nothing. Qin Hao smiled. Indeed, it's only 500,000, but it's gold. Rumble. This was like a sudden clap of thunder. What did you say? Hai Dafu breathed heavily. He found it difficult to breathe. He loosened the clothes around his neck and grabbed Qin Hao's arms tightly with his big hands. What I'm giving you is 500,000 taels of gold, which is equivalent to 50 million taels of silver. It should be enough to give you some time to catch your breath, right? Qin Hao smiled. The old demon of the Black Mountain had been a great help. He had established a sect, sold pills for his entire life, and saved money for his entire life. In the end, he had been slapped by the drunkard, and all of it had gone into Qin Hao's pocket. Enough, enough. 10 days won't be a problem. Hai Fei Zi was very agitated. But this doesn't seem like my stingy brother's style. He didn't believe that Qin Hao's money was sponsored by Little Fatty Hai from Exploding Flame City. Your brother is drinking, eating, and having a good time. He doesn't have time to care about you. This 50 million is my private sponsorship. Qin Hao shook his head. At a time like this, you're still fantasizing about brotherly love. This, Hai Fei Zi was very shocked. Qin Hao had already grown to such a wealthy extent. Yes, this kid had the wisdom of a businessman. Nephew Qin, thank you so much. Qin Hao's address had suddenly changed from Qin Brat to Nephew Qin. But 10 days is far from enough. We have to prevent any accidents. How about this? I'll personally go to Hao Fuge and Zhun Yogui's families and ask them to pay for it. Qin Hao said. Hai Dafu shook his head. I've tried. I almost kneeled down in front of those 2 grandsons. One of their sons can't get hard, and the other one gets soft after taking off his pants. This is related to carrying on the family line. They don't have the heart to make money at the moment. This illness, I can cure it, Qin Hao said. Crack. It was as if thunder had exploded in the room. Are you serious? Haidafu said happily. Don't worry, I'll make them kneel on the ground and hug your legs. They'll cry for their parents and beg to join us. With Qin Hao and Dinda's methods, curing impotence and early discharge would be a piece of cake. In addition, I'll give you a pill recipe. Take it to Dan Ji's headquarters in the Luo Shui Empire and find the best manager there to trade. I'm sure they'll give you a pretty good price. Qin Hao said immediately. Haidafu was so shocked that he almost jumped up. If Dan Gu was willing to help, the treasure would be 100% successful. This was because the treasure was produced in the Luo Shui Empire. However, Haidafu was very puzzled. Why are you so sure that Dan Gu will help us? Because I have a complete ancient pill recipe in my hands. Qin Hao replied domineeringly. His words left no room for doubt. Boom! Haidafu fell to the ground on his butt. Dan Gu regarded pill recipes as his life. Ancient pill recipes were extremely difficult to find. They could only be found in the tombs of great powers. It was extremely dangerous. Moreover, many of them were incomplete. Qin Hao actually had a complete ancient pill recipe in his hands. Wouldn't this shock the pill pavilion to the core? Awesome, this is too awesome. Ha ha ha. Haidafu let out an excited howl. The dispirited look on his face disappeared. Young master, Little Hai is unable to repay your great kindness. It's just that, is this ancient pill recipe really? Haidafu was still a little worried. How could Qin Hao have an ancient pill recipe? You don't have to ask. I found it in the volcanic eruption mountains. I almost lost my life. As Qin Hao spoke, he even spat out a mouthful of saliva. This was simply bad luck. Haidafu immediately felt relieved. There were countless treasures in the volcanic eruption mountains. It was not strange to find an ancient pill recipe. Qin Hao had clearly gotten lucky. How could he say that he was unlucky? Next, Qin Hao took out his spatial ring and prepared to pour out the gold that the old demon of the Black Mountain had saved for a lifetime. What surprised him was that Haidafu also had a sumeru pouch in his hands. It seemed that this Hai Fei Z's ability was not just for show. Haidafu was also very surprised. Qin Hao also had a spatial artifact, and it was a much higher grade than his tattered pouch. However, the two of them did not say anything and nodded in tacit understanding. This cooperation was very pleasant. They both knew each other's strength. A spatial artifact was enough to prove everything. Qin Hao was relieved. Haidafu was also relieved. Let's talk about my problem after we've settled your problem. Qin Hao cleared his throat and coughed twice. What could trouble young master? Why don't you let little Hai share your burden? Haidafu asked very sincerely. In fact, he had expected that Qin Hao would come looking for him today. However, Qin Hao had solved the problem of the treasure and saved Haidafu from the water and fire. Not to mention a trivial matter. Even if Qin Hao had 100 things, he would still go to the fire. It's not a big deal. I provoked a small family. I'm worried that they will cause trouble for the Qin family's medicine shop. Next, Qin Hao recounted how he taught Zogo a lesson. Tang Fei was still in Royal City and would return in a month. Qin Hao would not wait foolishly. He would go to Fengli Temple tomorrow. He was worried that after he left, Zogo would secretly make a move against Qin Laosi. Therefore, there had to be someone with enough status to deter the Tang family. Without a doubt, Haidafu was the ideal candidate. A mere trash Tang family is not worth mentioning. Young master, don't worry. Haidafu walked to the door and said in a deep voice, Old 6, arrange for people to protect the Qin family's medicine shop. If anything happens, even if a servant loses a hair, you don't have to come back to see me for the rest of your life. This old servant obeys. I will immediately arrange for 2 Yuan masters and the Hai family's loyalists to go over. Old 6 was worthy of being the person who understood Haidafu the most. As soon as Haidafu spoke, he could see the importance of the Qin family's medicine shop. No, this time I want you to go personally. Chapter 138. Leave a backup plan. Six's brother was very surprised, but he didn't hesitate and nodded. Yes, master. Qin Hao was completely relieved this time. Haidafu mobilized 2 yuan masters. Moreover, they had even sent out a death squad. Even his personal #1 expert was sent to oversee the Qin family's pharmacy. It was enough to show his sincerity towards Qin Hao. Qin Hao only hoped that Zhou Go would not look for trouble. Otherwise, it was hard to imagine what kind of terrifying things he would encounter. Without further ado, Qin Hao set out to find Hao Fuyo and Zhen Yuqian. His footsteps suddenly stopped. He turned around and looked at the dilapidated courtyard and the thatched hut. I have a question for you. With Master Hai's identity and status, why would he leave behind such a crude and unbearable place in his residence? Because this is my old home. It contains the happy times when my younger brother and I were young. Every blade of grass, every tree, and every rotten pot here carries my deep longing for my old mother. Haidafu was immersed in his memories. The son wants to raise, but the father doesn't wait. You are very good. Qin Hao turned around and stepped out of the sea mansion. In fact, Haidafu's family was very poor when he was young. His father had passed away early, and his mother had painstakingly raised him and his brother. At that time, they were so poor that they didn't even have enough food to eat. Haidafu's mother left the thick food for the 2 brothers. As for himself, he was eating scraps and drinking water. At that time, Haidafu gritted his teeth and swore that he would become rich and never want to see his mother suffer again. He must repay her well. In the end, Haidafu succeeded. With his wealth that could rival an entire nation, he laughed proudly at the entire Jiang country. Unfortunately, he would never have the chance to show filial piety to his old mother, because that old man had already died of illness. The son wants to raise, but the father doesn't want to wait. OL 6 carefully savored Qin Hao's words, his eyes filled with admiration. In fact, as a 6-star master, he would be a core elder in any sect. However, he would rather be an old servant under Haidafu. This was not for money, nor was it all for gratitude. Instead, 6's brother felt that Haidafu was a rare filial son. Qin Hao had left Haifu for a long time, but Songshi didn't dare to show his face. What if Qin Hao didn't die and came to take revenge on him? In the end, Songshi couldn't hold it in any longer. He guessed that Qin Hao was probably dead, so he returned to the small courtyard, trembling with fear. At this moment, Haidafu was still standing in front of the straw hut, savoring Qin Hao's words. The son wants to raise, but the father can't wait. Tears rolled down from the corners of his eyes. Wow, I'm so happy to see that Master C is safe and sound. It was really dangerous just now. There was a reckless young man who barged into the sea mansion and killed everyone he saw. His methods were extremely cruel. As the wise and brave general of the Sea Lord, how could I allow him to act so presumptuously? I fought with him. We fought until the sky turned dark. The sun and moon lost their light. The mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. In the end, I used the great universal shift, and that young man also used the soul-extinguishing hand. Unfortunately, I was riddled with injuries and was at a disadvantage. His soul-extinguishing hand made my whole body tremble. I was careless and took a punch. Later, I found out that the young man was called Qin Hao and was from the Qin family's medicine shop. F***CK his grandmother. Just mentioning it makes me angry. Today, when I went to the Qin family's medicine shop to collect money, those bastards from the Qin family didn't even give me 10 taels. I kind of said a few words to them. In the end, that Qin Hao chased me all the way to the sea mansion, but I didn't run away. I couldn't ignore Master C and the danger. I, Songshi, am a gentleman. I know how to repay kindness, so I shouted loudly that there was an assassin, haha. That bastard Qin Hao was most likely beaten to death by the 6th master. He really deserved to die. Why didn't he die earlier? Songshi didn't stop spewing insults. He didn't notice the raging anger on Haidafu's face. Moreover, every time Songshi scolded Qin Hao, Haidafu's anger increased. In the future, if I meet a bastard like Qin Hao again, I'll kill one when I see one. If I see 2, I'll kill 2. Don't you think he deserves to die? Song sure asked old Six, who was beside him. Yes, he deserves to die. He must be skinned and thrown into a mass grave 10 li away, like a drying rack. He must be made into jerky and fed to the wild dogs. Hai Dafu was so angry that his fat face trembled. He gave Old Six a look. Slap! Old Six raised his hand and slapped Song Shure's face. The slap sent him flying 5 to 6 meters high, and he landed heavily on the ground. Master C, please spare my life. What did I do wrong? Song Shure was so scared that he pissed his pants. You didn't do anything wrong by flattering others. What you did wrong was making an enemy out of Qin Hao. Drag him out and kill him. Hai Dafu casually waved his hand. Suddenly, an intense green light appeared in Old Six's hand. No, I haven't earned any money yet. I haven't made that bitch Chui kneel and tremble at my feet. Everyone is jealous of me. Song Shure let out a heart-wrenching howl. However, under Old Six's slap, his howl came to an abrupt end. After Qin Hao left the high residence, he went straight to find Hao Fuguwei and Zhun Qianqian. He asked for directions as he walked. Fortunately, these two people were well known in Heaven's Wall City. Therefore, Qin Hao didn't waste much time and went to the Hao residence and Zhun residence. As for the 500,000 taels of gold that he gave to Hai Dafu, Qin Hao felt that it was most likely going to be a waste of money. Qin Hao didn't have any hope for that bullshit treasure. His goal was only to let Hai Dafu protect Fourth Uncle and the medicine shop. As long as Fourth Uncle was fine, it was worth it no matter how much money he had to spend. After arriving at the Hao residence and Zhun residence, Qin Hao blinded Hao Fuguwei and Zhun Qianqian's beautiful big eyes with his miraculous alchemy technique. In addition, they were familiar with Qin Hao. Therefore, they didn't reject Qin Hao's good intentions. After all, Qin Hao came to treat their sons for free. Of course, they couldn't refuse. They held an attitude of giving it a try and let Qin Hao perform a course of treatment. If there was any improvement, they would strengthen it. But in fact, the illness of those two bastards was much more complicated than they had imagined. No wonder Hao Fuguwei and Zhun Qianqian couldn't cure them even after finding so many old Chinese doctors. However, this wasn't a problem for Dendi. In less than a cup of tea's time, Hao Fuguwei and Zhun Qianqian's sons regained their masculinity. And that night, they made love with their 8 wives. From night till dawn, they still didn't fall the next day. This made Hao Fuguwei and Zhun Qianqian so emotional that they cried. Their ancestors had appeared. They worshipped Qin Hao to the extreme and worshipped him like a god. What happened next was as expected. The next day, Hao Fuguwei and Zhun Qianqian ran to Hai Dafu's house and hugged his legs, crying and begging to join him. They didn't care about profits and were even willing to give all the money they earned to Qin Hao. This made Hai Dafu even more grateful to Qin Hao. At night, Qin family's medicine shop. Come in. Qin Hao held a brush and rode in the room. Creak. The door opened. Young master, Zhuo Jun Qin stepped into the room and stood respectfully in front of Qin Hao. Chapter 139. Might have to fight a few times. Young master, are you going to Fengli Temple tomorrow and secretly summoning me in the middle of the night? Do you have something to tell me? Under the pressure of Qin Hao's gaze, Zhuo Jun Qin subconsciously lowered his head. Qin Hao smiled, but did not speak. He stretched out his hand, and a purple pill appeared in his palm. Eat this. This, Zhuo Jun Qin's body shook. This was the peerless marrow cleansing pill that Qin Hao had refined during the annual meeting. After Xiao Han consumed this pill, he had advanced from the 9th layer of body tempering tier to the 3rd layer of element gathering tier. Its power was immense. Zhuo Jun Qin's eyes burned with passion as he swallowed the marrow cleansing pill. In that instant, a surge of power surged through his 8 extraordinary meridians, and a layer of green light overflowed from his body. Zhuo Jun Qin instantly broke through to the 1st layer of element gathering tier. 1st layer peak. 2nd layer of element gathering tier. 2nd layer peak. Third layer of element gathering tier. After the third layer, the medicinal power in his body began to dissipate. Although it was not like Xiao Han, who had advanced 4 layers from body tempering tier. However, Zhuge Junshun had advanced 2 layers and was quite talented. Use your strongest move, mountain splitting palm, to hit me. Qin Hao's next words stunned Zhuge Junshun. What did young master say? I told you to hit me. Qin Hao's tone was firm. Zhuge Junshin's eyes burned with fighting spirit. He could feel the rich power in his body. The power of the third layer of element gathering tier was unprecedented, and this gave Zhuge Junshun confidence. Although young master is skilled, Junshun is no ordinary person. My attack is not to be underestimated. You must be careful. Zhuge Junshun slammed his palm towards Qin Hao's chest. Origin Qi surged beneath his palm, and it seemed as if it could break a mountain. This was the Zhua clan's ultimate technique, the dark class low-level mountain splitting palm. However, Zhuge Junshun thought that this attack would not cause any harm to Qin Hao. After all, Qin Hao was in the 5th layer of element gathering tier. Zhuge Junshun only hoped that he could force Qin Hao back a few steps. That was enough for him to be proud. Who would have thought that as soon as he raised his hand, before he could fully unleash his attack, Qin Hao also sent out a palm strike. His speed was 5 times faster than Zhuge Junshun's. The palm stopped right in front of Zhuge Junshun's face, bringing with it a strong gust of wind that blew Zhuge Junshun's hair back. Zhuge Junshun's face was drenched in cold sweat. Under Qin Hao's palm, he felt a sense of release. It was as if he was willing to die under Qin Hao's hands. Without a doubt, this was a palm technique with a mysterious power. The grade of this palm technique was unimaginably high. What kind of palm is this? Zhuge Junshun asked in a daze. Mid-grade, earth tier, origin skill. Come on, God, palm. After saying this, Qin Hao dispersed his palm power. Plop. Zhuge Junshun was paralyzed. It was as if all of his strength and courage had disappeared. He knelt before Qin Hao and begged, Young master, please teach me this technique. Qin Hao didn't answer. Instead, he asked, Do you know why I asked you to attack? Zhuge Junshun swallowed hard. I was too arrogant just now. I thought my strength had increased greatly. Young master must be warning me that no matter how strong I become, everything I have is given to me by young master. Young master has the power to take it away from me. Zhuge Junshun's face was full of shame. He had been too presumptuous just now. His confidence had been inflated to the extreme, and he had wanted to challenge Qin Hao's authority. You're overthinking it. I was just checking to see if you've improved recently. Qin Hao waved his hand casually. Zhuge Junshun's shame deepened. He had always regarded Qin Hao as his goal, and he had always wanted to compare himself to Qin Hao. In Qin Hao's heart, however, he had no intention of comparing himself to him. In reality, the two of them couldn't be compared at all. But Zhuge Junshun still felt extremely ashamed. He had really used the heart of a petty person to cross the heart of a gentleman. This subordinate is ashamed. Rise. Qin Hao pulled Zhuge Junshun up. You're a smart person. Do you know why I gave you a new life, refined pills for you, and taught you cultivation techniques? This subordinate is willing to be the sharp blade in young master's hands. Zhuge Junshun vowed solemnly. Don't be so serious, calling me young master every time. Look at how nervous you are. Qin Hao was speechless. He took 2 pieces of paper from the table. These were the ones he had just written down from memory. One is the Buddha's palm. As for the other, you're not allowed to look. Qin Hao handed the cultivation technique to Zhuge Junshun. After you've mastered the Buddha's palm, remember to burn it. As for this prescription, send it to the high residence tomorrow. Of course, if you want to die at the hands of Hai Dafu, you can sneak a few glances. This subordinate wouldn't dare. Go. Qin Hao waved his hand, dismissing Zhuge Junshun. In his previous life, as the only dandy on the mainland, Qin Hao naturally had all kinds of pill recipes. Not to mention ancient pill recipes. He even had quite a few immemorial pill recipes. He had purposely told Hai Dafu that he had found it in MT, exploding flame, to confuse him. At this moment, Zhuojun was very excited to receive the middle-grade Earth-tier palm technique. He turned to leave. However, he stopped and turned back. This subordinate has always had a question. Young master gave me a weapon, refined pills for me, and now taught me the Buddha's palm. Logically speaking, young master Qin Yu is more suitable. After all, he is your brother. But why did you leave all the benefits to me? It's simple. Because Qin Yu is my brother. He cannot be injured, and he cannot be stained with blood. And the meaning of your existence is to protect the Qin family. Qin Hao sat cross-legged on the bed and closed his eyes. These words were undoubtedly shocking to Zhuojun. However, he was not jealous of Qin Yu. Instead, he thought to himself, with a brother like Qin Hao, I have no regrets in life. How he wished that he was the one to be Qin Hao's brother. But that was just wishful thinking. I will not stay in Fengli Temple for too long, nor will I stay in this tiny Jiang kingdom. This is all I can do for the family. As he spoke, Qin Hao began to practice the art of endless samsara. If he wanted to increase his strength quickly, he would have to leave Jiang Kingdom. Jiang Kingdom was poor in land and resources. Qin Hao could not refine many pills that could increase his strength here. If he left Zhuojun behind, he would be able to hold up half the sky of the Qin family. Zhuojun was not a bad person, especially after going through so much. In comparison, Qin Yu's heart was still too pure. He was indeed lacking compared to Zhuojun. With Zhuojun protecting the Qin family, Qin Hao could be at ease. I'm afraid a fight will be unavoidable at Fengli Temple tomorrow. The news of Qin Hao impersonating the Holy King of Fengli Temple in front of the Tang Mansion had most likely spread. When he went tomorrow, many disciples would not be convinced and would want to compete with him. There might even be elders and the sect leader who would personally test him. Right now, he had to raise the art of endless samsara's qi condensation technique to the 5th layer. Once he reached the 5th layer, Qin Hao would be able to face off against an expert of the 8th layer of Yuan gathering tier and not be at a disadvantage. The body tempering technique was to refine the body. The qi condensation technique was to strengthen the elemental energy. The art of endless samsara was quite interesting. The 1st layer was very troublesome to cultivate, but once one passed the 1st layer, the rest would be much easier. Qin Hao had a lot of experience from his previous life. That night, he successfully reached the 5th layer of qi condensation. However, in the latter half of the night, the Qin family's medicine shop was surrounded by loud bangs. Chapter 140. Fengli Temple. Qin Hao noticed that there seemed to be 2 groups of people. One of them was undoubtedly Zhou, but as for the other, no one knew. However, this ringing sound did not last for long before a terrifying aura rose. Qin Hao was extremely happy. Haidafu's old 6 made his move. In an instant, the commotion outside the medicine shop returned to silence. Zhou, oh Zhou, you better not be killed by old 6 palm. We don't want you to die so easily. No matter if it was Zhou or Tang Fei, including the 2nd elder who had framed his parents back then, no one could escape. 1 month later, it would be the day of their retribution. Easter daybreak. The snow fluttered in the cold wind. A few icicles that had fallen under the eaves broke apart and fell to the ground with a neigh of a steed. Ha! It was smashed into pieces. Qin Hao and Xiao Han rode on the same horse and headed straight for Fengli Temple in the east of the city. They did not alarm anyone. Only Qin Laosi held Qin Hao's hand and said a few words. Then, he mysteriously took out a jade pendant and placed it in Qin Hao's hand. This jade pendant was very warm, and there was a fire dragon totem on it. It was a piece of fire dragon jade. Qin Hao remembered that when he had just been reborn, Qin Laosi had anxiously rushed back from outside. In fact, he had accidentally picked up this piece of fiery dragon jade. Qin Laosi felt that this item was not ordinary. He was afraid that it would be snatched away by others, so he hurried back to the Qin mansion. Now that he had given the jade pendant to Qin Hao, he felt that it might be useful to Qin Hao. Giddy up, Qin Hao rode a fast horse through the city, kicking up a cloud of snow and dust. Xiaohan was also on the horse's back. As the saying goes, one rides on top of the world, and the two shadows are inseparable. This scene made the commoners in the city extremely envious. After leaving the city, when they were about to reach the Fengli Temple, they were blocked by someone. This person was standing in the middle of the road. He was slightly older than Qin Laosi. His temperament was extraordinary and his face was quite handsome. Faintly, there was a slight resemblance between his brows and Qin Hao's. These were not important. What was important was that this person was a master yuan. Whoosh! Qin Hao immediately stopped his horse and stared at the middle-aged man cautiously. The road is so wide. Why are you stopping me? The road is wide. Of all the places you could have gone, why did you have to go to the Tang residence to die? The middle-aged man said coldly. Qin Hao's heart skipped a beat. You're from the Tang family? My name is Tang Jia. I'm Tang Rong's only brother. In terms of seniority, I'm your uncle. Tang Jia said. There was not a shred of emotion in his words towards Qin Hao. His eyes were cold and disdainful. Xiaohan couldn't help but feel nervous. I don't have an uncle. Please step aside. Qin Hao instinctively rejected the people from the Tang family. Uncle? When her mother was chased out of the Tang mansion. Where's her uncle? When her mother and father met with mishap. Where's her uncle? Yesterday, when Qin Hao came to the Tang mansion and was humiliated by Zhou Go. And where was this uncle of his? Don't look at me like that. I came here out of mercy because the old master of the Qingshan courtyard was worried about you. He asked me to advise you that you can't afford to offend the Tang mansion. Tang Jie waved a finger disdainfully in front of his nose. If you don't want to die, go back to where you came from and be a country bumpkin young master in the countryside. Otherwise, only death awaits you. As your uncle, this is my advice to you. I said, I don't have an uncle, and I don't have a spineless uncle like you. If it's just because of this, then I'm sorry, but I have to hurry, Qin Hao said and pulled the horse's head to gallop forward. You don't know how to appreciate favors. Tang Jie looked at Qin Hao's back and cursed angrily. Then he felt pain in his arm and grimaced. There was a purplish bruise on Tang Jie's arm. Yesterday, he went to the Qin family's pharmacy to intercept Zhou Go. That was a dangerous situation. Suddenly, Hai Dafu's bodyguard appeared. If Tang Jie hadn't run fast enough, he would have been beaten to death by Old Six. He was there to help, but he was beaten up for no reason. Tang Jie was very surprised by this. Why was Hai Dafu so protective of Qin Hao? He didn't even hesitate to mobilize his men of sacrifice and send out 3 grandmasters. Even his bodyguard, Old Six, was guarding the Qin family's pharmacy. Although he was surprised, Zhou Go was even more miserable. His manhood was shattered. Uncle? Qin Hao snorted. He wouldn't be frightened by Tang Jie. Not only was he going to make a fuss about this marriage, he was going to make a fuss about it until the end. You didn't want me to come, but I came. You said I couldn't afford to offend you, but I did. If it's mine, I'll take it all back. None of you can escape from what you owe me. A real man should have this kind of backbone. Xiaohan was nestled in Qin Hao's arms on horseback. The crescent jade pendant on her neck was giving off a hazy glow. Her strength had already skyrocketed to the peak of 9th layer of element gathering tier. Xiaohan was absorbing the power of the jade pendant at every moment. If Qin Hao knew about this, he would probably jump up in shock. Actually, Xiaohan's goal was very simple. She wanted to prove that she was stronger than Tang Fei. Not only was she stronger, but she also wanted to leave Tang Fei in the dust. Because Tang Fei wasn't good enough for Qin Hao. As the horses galloped, the two of them arrived at the foot of the mountain where Fengli Temple was located. Looking up, the sect was extremely vast. Inside the main gate, there were countless houses and many disciples. Qin Hao knew that was the outer sect. As they walked further in, the houses became relatively fewer. There were only a mere 100 disciples. That was the inner sect. After the inner sect, there were 4 mountain peaks towering between the mountains. Each mountain peak was garrisoned by 2 Yuan Shi-level elders. Behind the 4 mountain peaks, there was even a giant peak that towered into the sky. That giant peak towered into the clouds. Qin Hao smiled slightly. The giant peak should be Dan Xian's Pill Peak. Clouds and mist swirled around it. Even from far away, one could smell the medicinal fragrance. On one side of the giant peak, there was even a small island floating. The height of the small island floating was not too high, not too low. It just happened to be level with the pale peak. On the island was Phoenix Glass Hall. It was the place where the sect master of Fengli Temple resided. From this, it could be seen that Dan Xian's status was not ordinary. He actually sat on equal footing with the sect master. The two of you stop right there. Before they stepped into the outer sect, Qin Hao and Xiao Han were stopped by two disciples. These two disciples were guarding the main gate. The moment they saw Xiao Han, their gazes instantly burned with passion. It's not time for our sect to accept disciples yet. Not just anyone can enter as they wish. But this little sister is different. If you want to join Fengli Temple, I, as your senior brother, can be merciful and go inside to inform the sect master. My master is an awesome deacon of the outer sect. Why don't you become my junior sister? Come, come, come. Junior sister is so beautiful. Let me take a good look at you. The two disciples guarding the gate thought that Qin Hao and Xiao Han were here to learn from their master. There was even a male disciple with a wretched look on his face. He stretched out a stinky hand and touched Xiao Han's face. He actually dared to openly flirt with Xiao Han in front of Qin Hao. Scram! Qin Hao shouted in a low voice. The aura of an element gathering tear was immediately released. The attack sent the two of them flying 5 to 6 meters away. They lay on the ground and coughed out a mouthful of blood. If Qin Hao still did not act, these two would most likely become corpses. Xiao Han's eyes were filled with killing intent. If that male disciple dared to touch her, she would unsheath her sword without hesitation. Element gathering tear? Are you King here to pick a fight? How dare you? You've eaten a bear's heart and a leopard's gall. Just you wait, you're dead meat. The two outer sect disciples' faces were filled with terror. They were deeply shocked by Qin Hao's strength. Then they quickly got up and ran to the residence of the outer sect elders. They were no match for Qin Hao, but that did not mean that they could not find someone to teach Qin Hao a lesson. Chapter 141. Wipe out the outer sect Pucci. Looking at the two fleeing figures, Xiao Han smiled inexplicably. You still dare to laugh? If you kill them, I'm afraid that old man Dan Xian won't be able to bear the consequences. Qin Hao pretended to be angry, but he secretly looked at Xiao Han from the corner of his eye. When Xiao Han smiled, it was very beautiful. If we can't bear it, then so be it. At worst, we won't come to Fengli Temple anymore. Xiao Han said with a pout. Actually, she wanted to say that the Fengli Temple could not accommodate Qin Hao, the Prince Charming. If Qin Hao was willing to leave with Xiao Han, she would make Qin Hao a great emperor. This was Xiao Han's family secret, but she couldn't tell him. Otherwise, Qin Hao would lose his dignity. Qin Hao shook his head. Xiao Han's tone was getting bolder and bolder. Girls really changed 18 times between childhood and womanhood. Stepping into the outer gate, a few disciples were chatting on the training field. Why hasn't Qin Daming, that dog of slave, come back yet? To be honest, I miss him. No, it's my smelly feet that miss him. Senior Marshal Brother Zhao Ci. Just how strong is the rat poison in Qin Daming's hands? Can you defeat his grandfather? How disgusting. That's our family's poison master. He extracted the venom of the Flash Corpse Rat King and refined it into a super invincible crying rat medicine. It's the best of the best. Not to mention an old man. Even 10 ferocious tigers will be defeated by it. These disciples were discussing Qin Daming. It has been almost half a year since Qin Daming left the outer sect. He had promised that after defeating his grandfather, he would bring a large number of treasures to show filial piety to his senior brothers. In the end, he never returned. The disciple by the name of Zhao Ci even took off his shoe in front of everyone and sniffed it. After that, his brows tightly knitted together and he curled his lips in disdain. Speaking of which, his feet were really smelly. Even he himself couldn't stand it. Yet Qin Daming spent half a year washing his clothes for him. What a spineless piece of trash. You don't need to smell your own feet anymore. Qin Daming will never come back. Qin Hao's ears were sharp and his eyes were sharp. He heard their conversation clearly. Where the hell did you come from? How come I've never seen you before? Also, what makes you think that Qin Daming won't be coming back? Zhao Xi couldn't help but be taken aback. Then he saw Qin Hao. They also saw Xiao Han, who was standing beside Qin Hao. Zhao Xi's eyes lit up. His gaze became extremely passionate. He even forgot to wear his boots as he led a group of disciples to surround Qin Hao. Junior Marshall's sister, have we met somewhere before? You look a lot like my ex-girlfriend. Is this God's will? Zhao Xi was really vulgar. He found such an excuse to talk to Xiao Han. Get out of my way. Xiao Han didn't even look at him. Ha ha. The surrounding disciples burst into laughter. After all, Zhao Xi was ranked second in the outer sanctum, body tempering stage 9. Yet, he was snubbed in front of a little girl. This was something that would never have happened in the past. Zhao Xi also felt that he had lost face. He actually made a fool of himself in front of so many junior brothers. Then, he looked at Qin Hao. He wanted to vent his anger on Qin Hao. Whose disciple are you? I've never seen you before. Why won't Qin Daming come back? Give me an honest explanation, or else. He paused. The surrounding disciples all took a step towards Qin Hao. It was obvious that they wanted to teach Qin Hao a lesson. You don't need to know who I am. Anyways, Qin Daming is dead, Qin Hao said. He grabbed Xiao Han's hand and was about to leave. Dead? Dead? Zhao Xi froze. The Qin family's lackey who washed his feet is dead? He immediately opened his arms to block Qin Hao. Are you the one who killed Qin Daming? I've been in the outer sanctum for 8 years. It wasn't easy for me to raise a lackey. How dare you kill him? Today, I'll cripple you, you little bastard. Slap. Before Zhao Xi could make a move, Qin Hao gave him a slap. First, no matter how useless Qin Daming is, he's still a member of the Qin family. You can't insult him. Slap. Another slap. Second, the Qin family will never be anyone's lackey. Slap. Thirdly, this is your punishment for using the rat poison to help Daming Qin, aiding the evil. Qin Hao gave Zhao Xi 3 slaps. Zhao Xi was stunned on the spot. All the disciples were also stunned. Then, Zhao Xi let out a loud howl. His eyes were bloodshot. Not only did Qin Hao kill his lackey, he also gave him 3 slaps. He slapped him so loudly in front of so many juniors. Zhao Xi was the second strongest disciple of the outer sanctum. He was slapped in front of everyone by Qin Hao. This was a great humiliation. Die. Zhao Xi released the strength of a body-tempering Realm 9 Dan and punched toward Qin Hao's face. He thought that this attack would definitely make Qin Hao's head explode. Slap. A palm firmly caught Zhao Xi's fist as Qin Hao stood in place without moving an inch. Fourthly, your dog eyes shouldn't be looking at Little Han. After he finished speaking, Qin Hao grabbed Zhao Xi's hand and lifted him up before ruthlessly smashing him under his feet. Zhao Xi didn't even make a sound and fainted. The stone floor beneath him shattered into pieces. Oh my God! He defeated Senior Zhao with a single strike. Senior Zhao is ranked second in the outer sanctum, but he couldn't even retaliate. When did the outer sanctum have such a ferocious person? The surrounding disciples retreated in shock. Qin Hao proved everything with his strength. You can't afford to offend me. Let's go. Qin Hao couldn't be bothered to deal with these ignorant disciples. He pulled Xiao Han and walked toward the inner sanctum. Hold it right there. At this moment, another person blocked their path. This person was tall and muscular. He had an abnormally strong physique. He was the top disciple of the outer sanctum, Wang Dazhuang. Wang Dazhuang was at the peak of body-tempering Realm 9 Dan. He was half a step away from advancing to Elemental Gathering Realm and becoming an inner sanctum disciple. Now, Zhao Xi, who was ranked second, was knocked unconscious by Qin Hao. This made Wang Dazhuang feel a sense of crisis. He would never allow anyone to be stronger than him. After all, the inner sanctum disciples were only assessed once every half a year. Moreover, there was only one spot. You are not bad. You're qualified for me to look at you properly, Wang Dazhuang said flirtatiously. Everyone look. Senior Wang is going to attack. Teach that brat a lesson. Otherwise, he'll really think that there's no one in the outer sanctum. Senior Wang, teach him a lesson. In an instant, the outer sanctum disciples cheered in unison. This made Wang Dazhuang feel extremely proud. Even his nostrils were raised. Am I qualified for you to look at me properly? Ha! Unfortunately, in my eyes, you're not qualified. Qin Hao threw a simple punch. Suddenly, a muscular figure flew into the sky. Wow, he flew really high. Plop! Wang Dazhuang fell to the ground. His eyes rolled back, and he fainted. Boom! The outer sanctum disciples collectively froze. They stopped shouting, and clapping their hands. They were extremely shocked. Even Senior Wang. He couldn't even block one attack. He's too strong. This is the real top disciple of the outer sanctum. New senior brother, my name is Godan. I'm willing to wash senior brother's feet. I'm very good at it. New senior brother, my name is Huzi. I'm 18 years old today. I'm still single. Senior brother, my admiration for you is like an overflowing river that can't be controlled. In an instant, a few hundred disciples surrounded Qin Hao. They were so crowded that not even a drop of water could trickle through. They were fighting to get his autograph. They pushed and shoved. Since the people behind could not see Qin Hao, they even started to beat up the people in front of them. Moreover, the more people they beat up, the more people there were. In the end, it developed into a gang fight with thousands of people. The scene was extremely heated. Chapter 142. To do or not to do, all of you, stop it for old man. A thunderous roar suddenly rang out, and a surge of green light shone on the martial arts field. The roar was so loud that it instantly silenced the chaotic scene. This was an old man of about 60 years of age. He was so angry that his beard was blowing and his eyes were glaring. He was about to go crazy. Thousands of outer sect disciples fighting each other was a precedent that had been set for hundreds of years in Fengli Temple. Their ancestors had been utterly disgraced. As for him, his eyes were filled with anger as he looked at Qin Hao. This unfamiliar young man was the one who had caused the commotion among the disciples. Vice sect leader. This person is here to pick a fight. At this moment, the two disciples who had been taught a lesson by Qin Hao at the entrance appeared beside the old man. The old man had been called over by them, and this old man was actually the vice sect leader of Fengli Temple's outer sect. At first, this disciple thought that he was here to learn from a master. So I tried to persuade him that our sect was temporarily not accepting disciples. But not only did he not listen, he even insulted us by calling us trash. How could this disciple tolerate his impudence? So we verbally argued with him and condemned him deeply. But he relied on his superior strength and completely disregarded our Fengli Temple. He injured us the moment he attacked, and his methods were extremely cruel. He wanted to kill us. Not only that, he even insulted the entire Fengli Temple as a small sect, and even worse than dog sh*t. The ability of these two disciples to distort the truth was truly an eye-opener for Qin Hao. You sure talk big. Let old man test your abilities and see if he can talk big. After saying this, the vice sect leader attacked Qin Hao. His body was enveloped in green light, and he released the aura of someone in the element gathering tier. Qin Hao saw through his strength with one glance. He was merely in the 5th layer of element gathering tier. Involuntarily, Qin Hao's lips curled into a smile. Although the strength of the Fengli Temple's deputy sect master was a bit low, he was still much stronger than the Pill sect's outer sect master Pang. It could be seen that the Fengli Temple's reputation as the #1 sect in the southern part of the Jiang Kingdom was not undeserved. Clearly, this old man was unable to scare Qin Hao. However, his disciples were greatly frightened, and they all retreated far away. After all, in the eyes of the body-tempering tier disciples, the vice sect leader was a powerful martial artist in the element gathering tier. He could easily kill them over 100 times with a snap of his fingers. His strength was simply terrifying. Zhao Xi and Wang Dazhuang, as geniuses of the outer sect, Why are you not behaving appropriately and lying on the ground? Just as the vice sect master was about to make a move, he discovered that the first and second ranked disciples of the outer sect were foaming at the mouth. Their eyes had rolled back and they had fainted on the ground. This was simply a disgrace. At this moment, almost all the disciples looked at Qin Hao in awe. Without a doubt, the person who made Zhao Xi and Wang Dazhuang fall asleep was Qin Hao. It was also at this moment that the vice sect master understood this point. Brat, you're not bad. To be able to take care of Zhao Xi and Wang Dazhuang, you have some talent. Are you interested in becoming the disciple of this old man? Be my disciple. The vice sect master's attitude suddenly became gentle. As he spoke, he dispersed the origin chi on his body. This caused the two disciples to be dumbfounded. In fact, all the outer sect disciples were dumbfounded at this moment. Their gazes toward Qin Hao changed from admiration to envy. They were so envious that they could die. Qin Hao actually had the fortune of becoming the vice sect master's disciple. I don't think so. With this brat's intelligence, it's simply a waste for him to be your disciple. Only someone like me, who is so awesome, is worthy of being his master. He was stunned. Another old voice rang out. Qin Hao turned his head to look. He saw an old man walking towards him. This old man was also in the 5th layer of element gathering tier, but his chi was obviously denser than the vice sect master's. Without a doubt, this was someone who was about to break through to the 6th layer of element gathering tier. What was even more absurd was that he also wanted to take Qin Hao as his disciple. More accurately, he wanted to snatch a disciple from the vice sect master. My God, Lord Sect Master. Disciple greets Lord Sect Master. Voila! Thousands of outer sect disciples knelt down in unison. Qin Hao was stunned. The second old man was the sect master. Moreover, he seemed to have a bad temper with the vice sect master. In fact, Qin Hao's guess was right. Zhao Xi was the vice sect master's disciple. Wang Dazhuang was the sect master's disciple. Next month, Fengli Temple would open up the inner sect and select an outer sect disciple to enter. If nothing unexpected happened, there was an 80 to 90% chance that it would be Wang Dazhuang. Unfortunately, a Qin Hao descended from the heavens. Not only did Qin Hao defeat Zhao Xi, he even defeated Wang Dazhuang. This gave the vice sect master an idea. If he took Qin Hao as his disciple, entering the inner sect would not be a problem. At that time, the vice sect master's status would naturally rise, and it would not be impossible for him to replace the sect master. However, at this moment, the sect master's thoughts were actually the same as the vice sect master's. As long as he took Qin Hao as his disciple, he would definitely win the inner sect disciple selection. How about it, disciple? Come with me. The moment the sect master appeared, he went to Qin Hao's side in a friendly manner, wanting to take Qin Hao away. My God, now even the sect master wants to take him as his disciple. This is simply blinding our beautiful eyes. My admiration is about to erupt again. All the disciples present were undoubtedly shocked. The sect master and the vice sect master were fighting to take Qin Hao as their disciple. At this moment, at least 1/3 of the disciples fainted. Are you blind? He is clearly the old man's disciple. Seeing this, the vice sect master hurriedly rushed up to stop the sect master. What do you mean he is your disciple? Look at his hungry eyes. He has obviously fallen in love with the old man. Nonsense. The old man teaches and educates people, and at the same time, he is also here to save the world. This young man spoke rudely to our sect. He should be my disciple and receive the teachings of the old man. You dare to talk to me? I am the vice sect master. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Do you think I'm afraid of you? Come on, let's fight. Come on, I'm not afraid of you. While talking, the two old men rolled up their sleeves. In order to take Qin Hao as their disciple, they did not hesitate to stage a bloody battle. At this moment, more than 500 disciples fainted again. Stop, stop, stop. I say, two old men, you are so eager to take me as your disciple. Have you considered my feelings? Qin Hao could not bear to see them like this, and stepped forward to interrupt them. Consider your feelings? What kind of bullshit feelings do you have to consider? Being able to become this old man's disciple is the blessing of your ancestors. You've walked through 8 lifetimes of dog's hit luck. The sect master opened his mouth and cursed. It seemed that being able to become Qin Hao's master was already a blessing from the heavens. With all due respect, if the heavens did not give birth to a teacher, it would be like a long night for all eternity. This is referring to the old man. A stubborn trash like you needs to be taught a lesson by me. It is not up to you to be picky. The vice sect master's tone was even more arrogant. Qin Hao's expression changed in an instant. Suddenly, his good impression of the 2 old men disappeared. These 2 old men did not act like a sect master and vice sect master. They were clearly narcissistic and egomaniacal, and they looked down on others. Sorry, I have something else to do. I have to go inside to find an elder. Please get out of the way, Qin Hao said coldly. He took Xiaohan's hand and walked away. Stop right there, old man. Did I say you could leave? If you don't want to be the old man's disciple, then disappear from my sight and go back to where you came from. Did I give you any face? The 2 sect masters said arrogantly and stopped Qin Hao at the same time. I respect the 2 of you because you are the honorable sect leader and vice sect leader. However, I also hope that the 2 of you can act like teachers. Get out of my way. Chapter 143. Hang the deputy headmaster, oh my. How dare you talk back to me? How dare you? The sect leader wanted to teach Qin Hao a lesson. If I don't step aside, what can you do to old man? The vice sect leader rushed forward and pushed Qin Hao's chest. Please behave yourselves. Qin Hao tried his best to restrain his anger. Bah! A disciple with such low quality like you dares to lecture me? Look at yourself. Old man scolded you for your own good. This vice sect master flaunted his seniority and thought that he was incomparably lofty. Don't push your luck. Why do you have to scold me? Qin Hao questioned. Why? Just because I am the vice sect leader, just because I am a teacher and you're a student, you deserve to be scolded by me. I'm not just scolding you. Which of the thousands of outer sect disciples hasn't been scolded by the old man? In my eyes, trash like you who took the money from your family, but didn't study hard are no different from dung. How dare you talk back to the old man? I'm scolding you. Not only can I scold you, but I can also hit you. Even if I hit you, your parents will have to obediently put in a good word for you in front of old man. Especially you. The vice leader pointed at Qin Hao's nose and said, You're so bad that I can tell you're not a good student. Hurry up and go home and call your parents over. Old man wants to see what kind of parents can teach a student who dares to talk back to the teacher. It can be seen that your parents are not good people either. You are simply going too far. Qin Hao clenched his teeth. These 2 old men relied on the fact that they were teachers of the sect to deliberately insult the students and even humiliate Qin Hao's parents. Qin Hao's parents were still missing. To put it bluntly, he was no different from a child without parents. Bully you too much? So what if I bully you? Come and bite me. Now, run a kilometer around the martial arts practice field. No, run 10,000 meters. You're a piece of rat shit that spoils the soup in Fengli Temple. You're a black sheep. If old man doesn't teach you a lesson today, you're going to think you're some bullshit genius. Not only you, but all of you. The vice sect master pointed at all the disciples and said, All of you, run around a martial arts practice field for this old man. If you don't run 10,000 meters, don't think about eating. Vice sect leader, we didn't offend you. Why do you punish us? Our parents took the money and asked us to come here to learn. We didn't come here to be bullied. Many disciples were filled with righteous indignation, and many more began to shed tears. Sect. 2. Vice sect. Sect vice. Should bad students be looked down upon by others? You're a teacher, but you don't act like one. I'm not going to study. I'm not going either. You're not treating us as human beings. Many disciples could not take it anymore. They threw down their swords and ran down the mountain. The situation was out of control. Stop right there, old man. The vice sect leader roared. His body was covered in a green light. His move scared all the disciples to the point that they did not dare to move. You come and go as you please. What do you think the school is? Today, I can see that you're the one who started it. The vice sect leader pointed at Qin Hao. That's right, vice sect leader. He's the one who started it. You must punish him severely. He incited all the disciples to go against you. The two gatekeeping disciples also hated Qin Hao to the extreme. They hurriedly and secretly reported to him, fanning the flames. I just want to go inside and find an elder. Get out of my way. Qin Hao did not want to waste any more words. He pulled Xiao Han and walked into the inner sect. Do you think you can enter the inner sect as you please? Trash should stay in the trash bin. Come here and take a slap from old man Wake yourself up. The vice sect leader gathered his strength and prepared to attack Qin Hao. Vice sect leader, don't underestimate him. The disciple was about to say that Qin Hao was actually in the elemental gathering realm, but he did not finish his sentence. Slap. The vice sect leader slapped the disciple's face. The disciple's mouth was full of blood. Even you dare to underestimate old man? How strong can this little brat be? Take this. Immediately, he slapped toward Qin Hao. In an instant, thousands of outer court disciples screamed. The vice sect leader was in the elemental gathering realm. He shamelessly attacked a disciple in the body tempering realm. Even the sect leader left with his hands behind his back. He thought that Qin Hao was most likely going to be crippled. It was a pity that he had lost such a good seedling. But Qin Hao deserved it, because he did not listen to his teacher. Pong! A heavy blow sounded. The vice sect leader's palm landed on Qin Hao's chest. Qin Hao did not back down. He took the blow head-on. This is the last chance I'm giving you. After he finished speaking, a layer of green light shone from Qin Hao's body. It immediately bounced off the vice sect leader's hand. What? The vice sect leader was stunned. No wonder you're so arrogant. So you're in the elemental gathering realm. But so what? You still have to kneel under old man's crotch and repent. He did not take Qin Hao seriously at all. He thought that Qin Hao was only in the first layer of elemental gathering realm. Because Qin Hao was too young. If he was young, he deserved to be weak. Pong! He sent out another palm strike. But this slap did not have a chance to touch Qin Hao's chest again. That was because a fair hand had blocked it. Qin Hao had made his move. Boom! A shocking sound. Two palms collided. The vice sect leader spat out blood and flew into the air. Qin Hao's inner energy was so strong that it shocked all the disciples present. But he did not give anyone time to react. Flying up, Qin Hao grabbed the vice sect leader's neck and slapped his old face nonstop. Pa! 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 I'm tolerating you. Not because I'm afraid of you. I'm not letting you be weak. I respect you because you're a good teacher, but you don't have the ability and you don't have the character. The first slap was your last chance. The second slap, I want you to go down in history, in infamy. This series of slaps caused the vice sect leader to cry out in pain. 2 rows of yellow teeth also flew out of his mouth. The scene was like a drunkard slapping the old demon of the Black Mountain. The vice sect leader was too ashamed to continue living. He fainted from anger under Qin Hao's slaps. Oh my God, is this real? Not only did he defeat Zhao Xi and Wang Dazhuang, even the vice sect leader was beaten. He couldn't even retaliate. I can't help but spurt out my admiration again. The disciples were shocked beyond words. The whole place was in an uproar. Their blood was boiling. They even cursed loudly. Well done. The new senior was extremely mighty. He had long wanted to teach this vice sect leader a lesson. You're too presumptuous. A loud roar rang out. The sect leader, who had not gone far, immediately turned around and slapped Qin Hao's back. He really did not expect that the dignified deputy sect leader of the outer sect would actually be slapped by his own student. Moreover, his teeth were knocked flying. If news of this were spread, the Fengli Temple would lose face. A teacher's ability was not even comparable to a student's. Therefore, the sect leader had to protect the dignity of the sect. Chapter 144. Noble spirit lives forever. New senior brother, be careful. It's over this time. Sect Master is about to break through to the 6th layer of element gathering tier. The new senior apprentice brother will be beaten to death, with all his meridians broken. All the disciples present were so scared that their lips turned blue. Many disciples covered their eyes, unable to bear to watch this bloody scene. However, in reality, the sect master himself was sent flying. He saw Qin Hao's body twist, and the incoming palm lost its aim, pressing down on Qin Hao's shoulder. Suddenly, a strong wave of internal energy surged out from Qin Hao's body. It was like a flood opening the floodgates as it slammed into the sect leader's body. The sect master's old eyes widened, and with a dark red menstruation in his mouth, he was thrown into the air in a sorry state. Qin Hao had practiced the art of indestructible samsara, so his 5th layer origin chi was comparable to the 8th layer of element gathering tier. Before this gate master, who was not even at the 6th stage, could land on the ground, he was also caught by Qin Hao. And you pa, 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 pa. A rain of slaps sounded again. After a series of slaps, the old sect master swayed left and right. His eyes rolled up, and he fainted under Qin Hao's palms. Oh my God! Even the sect leader was beaten up. Is the new senior brother a human or a monster? You've blinded my eyes. My admiration has been torn apart from my body and spurted to the primitive universe from my head. At this moment, the disciple's emotions were boiling. His admiration for Qin Hao, from the initial envy, had directly turned into fear. This new senior brother is not human. He is a demon. He is a devil. He is the idol of men, the lover of young girls, the good husband of the nation, the pride of our student world. Our new senior brother is fierce to the extreme. He's definitely not an outer court disciple. Someone suddenly remembered that Qin Hao had been talking about going to the inner sect to find an elder. Could it be that he was a disciple that the elder of the inner sanctum secretly took in at the foot of the mountain? We should have known that he was an inner disciple. Only the inner sect senior brothers have such powerful strength. Bullsh asterisk T. Even if he's an inner disciple, it's impossible for him to beat up the sect leader and vice sect leader. Such a thing has never happened before. But no matter what, our new senior brother has helped us vent our anger. His might is unimaginable. His arms can run horses, his shoulders can stand people. He can fight 10 women at night without falling. And his chrysanthemum is still red after 100 battles. F asterisk CK, your grandmother. How dare you humiliate our new senior brother? Beat him up. A large group of disciples are ganging up on some unlucky bastard. Venerated shadow of the vast sky, none of the remaining evildoers will survive. The heavenly Tao is indestructible, and the noble spirit is everlasting. He is the wise ruler of our holy world, the sage king. A disciple looked at Qin Hao's peerless figure and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Saint King. The other disciples were stunned when they heard this. Break all unreasonable rules. Everyone is equal. You should be our Saint King. Holy King, Saint Monarch. Holy King. Over 1,000 disciples raised their arms and cheered for Qin Hao like a hero. The sky is filled with vengeful shadows. The remaining evil shall not live. The heavenly Tao is indestructible, and the noble spirit is everlasting. Not bad. Qin Hao couldn't be bothered to look at the 2 sect leaders whose faces were covered in blood. He pulled Xiao Han's hand and stepped into the inner sect. Inner sect. Compared to the outer sect, it was obviously smaller. In the entire inner sect, there were only a little more than 100 disciples. But it was obvious that the inner sect disciples' houses were obviously more luxurious than those of the outer sect disciples. Even the lowest disciple here had the strength of the 1st layer of element gathering tier. The difference between the inner sect and the outer sect was like heaven and earth. The inner sect disciples' requirements for martial arts were not as messy as the outer sects. Some disciples specialized in cultivating sword force, striving to reach the pinnacle of weapons. There were also disciples who meditated and cultivated their chi to strengthen the origin chi in their body, hoping to become an origin chi grandmaster in the future. But in these years, there were also disciples who began to cultivate alchemy. There was no other reason, but because Fengli Temple suddenly had an additional Elder Dan. Elder Dan's identity was special, and her position was high, above the 10 great elders. She also wore a palace feather and was practically on the same level as the sect leader. If one became Elder Dan's disciple, they would soar to the sky in the sect. So, these inner sect disciples did not hesitate to waste a large amount of time cultivating and specialized in studying alchemy that they knew nothing about. Unfortunately, not everyone could become an alchemist. The slightest change in the ability to control fire would lead to failure in refining pills. The requirements for alchemist techniques and fire control made everyone feel despair. It could even be said that among 10,000 element gathering tier martial artists, one could find a qualified person who could control the fire to an excellent degree. From this, it could be seen how difficult it was to become an alchemist. King succeeded in refining pills. A pleasantly surprised voice sounded from one of the inner sect's rooms. Inside, there was a young man with very small eyes. The young man held a copper furnace in his arms and cried to the sky, unable to extricate himself from the excitement. He opened the furnace and poured out a grayish pill from inside. Judging from the color, this was the most trashy, low-grade pill. Moreover, it was only the easiest small origin pill to refine. But the young man with small eyes was so excited that he wanted to cry. He had studied alchemy for a full 5 years, and today he finally succeeded. Although he refined a trashy, small origin pill and the trashy, low-grade pill at that. But in the future, he would no longer need to waste money to buy pills. He could refine countless small origin pills himself and eat them however he wanted. With the help of the small origin pill, his ability would definitely improve by leaps and bounds, and he would become the number 1 among the inner sect disciples. Li Gang Pao. You didn't expect this, did you? Wang Tai Dan, have finally become an alchemist. I'm going to surpass your 3rd layer of element gathering tier. The disciple named Wang Tai Dan howled endlessly after he succeeded in refining pills. Senior Brother Wang, this is bad. That King Li Gang Pao broke through to the 4th layer of element gathering tier. He's practically blinding my beautiful eyes. Panic shouts suddenly sounded from outside the room. Instantly, a disciple rammed open the door like a frightened wolf dog. What did you say? Li Gang Pao broke through to the 4th layer of element gathering tier? This is impossible. This is absolutely King impossible. Wang Tai Dan had just learned how to refine pills when he received this shocking news. In reality, Li Gang Pao might never be able to reach the 4th layer of element gathering tier in this lifetime, but he got lucky and met a young man. That young man casually waved his hand and refined a top-grade, large origin pill. Wang Tai Pao ate the large origin pill and broke through in an instant after being stuck in his cultivation level for a year. What the CK? The wolf dog-like disciple cried until his face was covered in tears. Pooh! Wang Tai Dan could not take the blow. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted in the room. He had painstakingly studied alchemy for 5 years and did not hesitate to waste time practicing martial arts. He had finally succeeded in refining pills, but he had refined a trashy, low-grade small origin pill. He was about to surpass his opponent, Li Gang Pao, but a young man casually waved his hand and refined a large origin pill, and it was a top-grade large origin pill. You guys still want to stop me? Qin Hao held the pill furnace in his left hand, and a ball of origin fire rose in his right palm, his gaze sharp. In front of him, there were over 70 inner sect disciples surrounding him. Half of the inner sect disciples had run over. At this moment, these disciples were so shocked that their mouths were agape and cold sweat was pouring down their backs. They were extremely shocked. Thank you, senior brother. Thank you for your great kindness. There was also a disciple who knelt in front of Qin Hao in front of everyone. It was him who had swallowed Qin Hao's top-grade, large origin pill. This person was Li Gangpao, who had been stuck in his cultivation level for a year. Chapter 145. Big River Sword descends from the heavens in reality. After Qin Hao taught the two sect leaders a lesson, in order to prevent people who overestimated themselves from finding trouble and wasting his time, he took out a small pill. He took out the small pill furnace and medicinal ingredients in advance. As long as he showed a little of his skills in public, it would be enough to intimidate those ignorant fools. Arriving at the intersect, Qin Hao met Li Gangpao. Li Gangpao saw that Qin Hao was holding a pill furnace and had an extraordinary bearing, so he felt that Qin Hao was extraordinary. This Li Gangpao was quite perceptive, leading the way for Qin Hao on his own accord. The other disciples didn't have such perceptive skills. They didn't recognize Qin Hao, and Qin Hao wasn't wearing the clothes of intersect disciples, so he was obviously an outsider. An outsider stepping into the intersect was undoubtedly trespassing on the intersect disciples' territory. Moreover, Xiaohan beside Qin Hao. She was really beautiful. In an instant, these disciples looked at Xiaohan with scorching eyes. Some even licked their lips vulgarly. The group of people perked up and blocked Qin Hao's path. They wanted to show off their domineering aura in front of Xiaohan and win the heart of the beauty. However, Qin Hao held the origin fire in his hand and refined pills in public. The moment he made a move, everyone's jaws dropped. That superb technique and exquisite control of the fire made it impossible not to admire him. Qin Hao gave his supreme grade great origin pill he refined to Li Gangpao. After Li Gangpao took it, he broke through to the fourth layer of element gathering tier on the spot. The result was that everyone's jaws dropped again. This brat's control of fire is not simple. It's better not to provoke him. Some of the disciples began to retreat and unwillingly glanced at Xiaohan a few more times. A mere trashy alchemist dares to show off in the intersect? Why don't you take a piss and look at your face? A cold snort was heard, filled with disdain. Everyone turned to look at who was so arrogant, daring to look down on an alchemist. With this look, they shrank their necks. So is the outer sect's senior brother swordsman. Senior brother swordsman is the number one swordsman in the outer sect. A poem, a bucket of wine, a long song, a sword to the horizon. The moment senior brother swordsman appeared, he recited a poem. He deliberately didn't look at Xiaohan, acting extremely aloof. Unfortunately, the thirsty look in his eyes betrayed him. In his heart, he was extremely fanatical about Xiaohan. Good poem, wonderful, wonderful. As expected of senior brother swordsman, the disciples hurriedly flattered him. Senior brother swordman was ranked third in the intersect. Isn't senior brother swordsman cultivating a yellow-grade secret art in seclusion? Why are you here? A disciple asked respectfully. I've already mastered the last move of the Huang grade sword skill, offending sword. So today, my sword and I are here. Senior brother swordman raised his head and still refused to look at Xiaohan. But I never imagined that a country bumpkin would dare to offend the inner court holy land. Forgive me for being blunt, but you bunch of trash were frightened by him. You're a disgrace to us intersect disciples. So, this is the reason why I'm here. Because, he paused, my sword is your sword. Good poem, wonderful. The disciples' confidence was instantly boosted. Senior brother swordsman's meaning was very clear. His sword was everyone's sword. He was most likely going to teach the country bumpkin a lesson for everyone. Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't provoke me, Qin Hao said in a low voice. If you dare to step into the intersect, you must be prepared to pay the price. Also, your blood has made me very interested in poetry, Swordsman said. Senior brother swordsman, quickly teach him a lesson. Let him know how dangerous we intersect disciples are. Senior brother swordsman, release your ultimate move, offending sword. The disciples clapped and cheered. Swordsman, please give me some face and don't cause trouble. Li Gangpao had just broken through to the fourth layer of element gathering tier, so his confidence was greatly boosted. He was indebted to Qin Hao, so he definitely wouldn't allow swordsmen to harm Qin Hao. Moreover, Li Gangpao thought that Qin Hao only knew how to refine pills, so he might not be stronger than swordsmen. He might even be weaker than Li Gangpao. Give you Li Gangpao face? Who do you think you are? Scram. Swordsman waved his hand, and a thick green light shone on his body. He was also in the 4th layer of element gathering tier. He was a veteran in the 4th layer of element gathering tier, and wasn't someone Li Gangpao could compare to. After saying this, Swordsman took out a large sword from his back. Wong. The large sword in his hand made a sound that made people tremble in fear. What a large sword. That's Senior Brother Swordsman's big river sword. Too coquettish. The disciples felt their blood boiling in their bodies. Li Gangpao's expression became extremely ugly. Judging from the sound of the sword, he wasn't Swordsman's match at all. Big river, sword comes from the heavens. My sword can cut the heavens and shatter the earth. With one strike, I could break a mountain. With one strike, I can cut the yellow river. If people block me, I will kill them. If Buddha blocks me, I will kill Buddha. I am the heavens. I am the earth. I am the god of swords. Ha-ah! Shwa! Swordsman hadn't finished speaking. A sharp sword ray swept across the sky and cut the large sword. The sword ray extended from the large sword, cutting off a tuft of Swordsman's hair. The smell of blood started to spread from Swordsman's body. Bam! That large sword shattered. Gradually, blood seeped out from Swordsman's neck. The blood cut through his skin, but didn't cause any fatal injuries. But at this moment, Swordsman felt as if he had walked through the gates of hell. Hiss! The disciples all gasped. Senior Brother Swordsman's big river sword shattered. It was cut in half with one strike. It even cut off his hair and left a scar on his neck. Its power was terrifying. At this moment, the disciples all looked at Qin Hao, because a sword suddenly appeared in Qin Hao's hand, and that sword ray was released by Qin Hao. You're nonsense. Have you said enough? Qin Hao held the 3-foot sword in his hand, and after he finished speaking, he passed the sword to Li Gangpao. Li Gangpao stood there in a daze. His mind was totally blank. When did Qin Hao take his sword away? He didn't see it clearly at all. This sword, what is it called? Swordsman held onto the bare sword hilt and said in a daze. One. Sword. Shock. Hong. Qin Hao said calmly. One sword startling swan. Good name. Thank you, young master, for not killing me. Swordsman, who was arrogant just now, immediately knelt in front of Qin Hao, prostrating himself on the ground. Oh my God, Senior Brother Swordsman knelt down. He is the 3rd genius in the intersect. He knelt in front of a country bumpkin. His sword is no longer our sword. The disciples couldn't imagine that the proud and arrogant swordsman would kneel in front of a young man. Get up, don't block my way. Qin Hao ignored Swordsman, pulled Xiaohan's hand, and walked towards Phoenix Glass Hall. I beg, young master, to teach me the sword technique. If you don't teach, I will kneel for a long time. With Swordsman's painstaking study of the sword, he could naturally feel the monstrous power contained in one sword's startling swan. But he couldn't comprehend it at all, because that sword strike was truly too fast. I don't accept disciples. Move aside. Qin Hao didn't want to waste any more time. Young master, I beg you, I live my life for the sword. Please accept me as your disciple. Swordsman cried and hugged Qin Hao's leg. You hugging my leg like this? I feel embarrassed. Move aside. Just kick me to death. I must learn one sword's startling swan. Swordsman hugged tightly, unwilling to let go. Ha! An extremely arrogant laugh sounded out. I say, Swordsman, you have at least received 2 moves from me. But now you are kneeling in front of someone else's crotch like a piece of trash. You are simply throwing away my face. Chapter 146. To beat an elder, it's Senior Brother Tiger Cliff, the #1 master of energy, ranked 2nd in the entire inner sanctum. The country bumpkins are going to suffer. Ha! The disciples instantly regained their arrogance and broke free from their fear. Some people even spat at the swordsman, their faces full of disgust. The swordsman has really thrown away the face of us, ordinary disciples. In fact, the Fengli Temple's inner sanctum was mainly divided into two factions: Master of Sword and Master of Energy. The Sword Master's moves were nimble and sharp. The vital energy of a Master of Energy was stable and ferocious. A swordsman was the representative of the Sword Sect, and Tiger Cliff was the #1 Master of Energy. However, Tiger Cliff was stronger than Swordman. He was in the 5th layer of Element Gathering tier, so he was ranked 2nd in the inner sect. At this moment, Tiger Cliff's face was filled with anger. Thinking back to when the swordsman was arrogant, he had also withstood 2 moves from him. Now, Qin Hao had shattered his day sword, cut off his hair, and even left a wound on his neck. This was clearly saying that Tiger Cliff's strength was inferior to Qin Hao's. Tiger Cliff had to save his face. "Useless swordsman, why are you still kneeling at the feet of a country bumpkin? Quickly crawl under my crotch and hug my thigh. Only then will you be befitting of your status." The moment Tiger Lizard shouted, there was a bit of grandeur. Just like the swordsman, he deliberately did not look at Xiao Han. He thought that Xiao Han would definitely pay attention to him because of this. There was an 80% chance that her heart would flutter and she would be infatuated with his muscular body. "Tiger Cliff, don't be too presumptuous." The swordsman was publicly humiliated by Tiger Cliff, so he naturally had to fight back. "Oh, you're rebelling. Back then, you did manage to withstand 2 moves from me, but that was in the past. Now, I only need to glare at you slightly, and it's enough to make you pee and shit your pants." Tiger Cliff looked at Qin Hao provocatively. The meaning behind his words was obvious. He was stronger than Qin Hao. He didn't even need to make a move. His gaze was enough to scare the swordsman into pissing his pants. Thinking of this, Tiger Cliff stroked his hair coquettishly. "This beautiful Xiao Han girl is about to fall head over heels for me. Why hasn't she thrown herself into my embrace yet? And I have to work harder and scare the swordsman into pissing himself first. Tiger Cliff, don't push me too far." The swordsman gritted his teeth. "You still dare talk back? Piss." Tiger Cliff's delicate body trembled, and her tiger eyes widened. His eyes flickered, and it was breathtaking. There was even a pressure that enveloped the swordsman. The swordsman's legs couldn't help but tremble. The urge to pee surged up uncontrollably. Tiger Cliff's strength had improved again. However, just as he was about to collapse, a powerful aura flowed into his body through his palm, immediately dispersing the pressure brought by Tiger Cliff. He raised his head and saw that it was Qin Hao. The swordsman was still hugging Qin Hao's leg. Immediately, the swordsman's eyes were filled with tears. Qin Hao had helped him when he was in danger. Otherwise, the swordsman would have made a fool of himself in front of everyone. "Damn, you actually didn't pee." Tiger Cliff couldn't hold on to his face any longer. "The swordsman didn't know how to cooperate, causing me to not be able to charm Xiao Han." However, Tiger Cliff still didn't give up. He said with an arrogant tone, "These days, some girls are really coquettish. They obviously have feelings for me, but they still pretend to be virtuous and pure." At the same time, he looked at Xiao Han and smiled. In fact, Tiger Cliff's words did have an effect. It made Xiao Han look at him. However, Xiao Han's eyes were filled with disgust and disgust. "You don't need to look at me with such a seductive gaze. I won't be charmed by your coquettish aura. Stop daydreaming." Tiger Cliff raised his nose and said, "Senior brother Tiger Cliff is really wild. Pure man. He's simply our idol. Speaking of which, women nowadays are really coquettish. They purposely pretend to be pure, but in reality, they want to raise their status." Ha ha. The disciples were also extremely arrogant. With Tiger Cliff's support, they were no longer afraid of Qin Hao. Moreover, they despised the swordsman to the extreme. Senior brother Tiger Cliff is still the most powerful. Scum. Xiao Han raised his hand and was about to draw his sword. Qin Hao stepped forward to block him. He coldly stared at Tiger Cliff. "I don't care if you're a bluff or a gecko. In short, you've completely offended me. As a man, this was the time to stand up for his woman. You dare to say that I'm a gecko? Don't think that you're invincible just because you concocted a dog shit pill and scare the swordsman to his knees. With me, Tiger Cliff, here, the intersect is not a place for you to behave atrociously. Do you dare to compete? Tiger Cliff was waiting for Qin Hao. As long as Qin Hao took the initiative to walk out and be dealt with by him, then Xiao Han would be unable to help but worship him. Compete in what? Qin Hao asked. Let's compete in vitality. Tiger Gecko's eyes widened. Hiss! The surrounding disciples sucked in a breath of cold air. In the inner sect, if Tiger Cliff said he was second, no one would dare to say they were first. It looked like senior brother Tiger Cliff had come prepared, deliberately choosing what he was best at to compete with others. Compete in origin chi? Qin Hao smiled. There was really no comparison. Qin Hao's origin chi could only be stronger than that of the 8th layer of element gathering tier. Who gave this Tiger Cliff the courage to boast so shamelessly? All right, I'll compete with you. Qin Hao replied. Benefactor, you mustn't. Tiger Cliff's origin chi is almost comparable to that of the 6th layer of element gathering tier. Li Gang Pao was shocked. That's right, master. You can't compete in origin chi with him. You have to compete in alchemy with him. You and your pills are here. The swordsman's eyes were also sharp, and he specifically chose what Qin Hao was best at. Looks like this brat is scared. Competing in origin chi with senior brother Tiger Cliff is no different from seeking death. In my opinion, he's just a coward. The surrounding disciples twitched their mouths and snorted at Qin Hao. Are you going to compete or not? Give me a straightforward answer. Or let that girl beside you show off in front of everyone, and I'll let you all go. Ha ha. Tiger Cliff put his hands on his waist and laughed wildly. Xiao Han couldn't bear it any longer and really wanted to end this idiot's life with one strike. Qin Hao tightly pressed down on Xiao Han's hand and said in a low voice, How are we going to compete? Brat, you really don't know what's good for you, daring to compete with senior brother Tiger Cliff. Last time, senior brother Tiger Cliff competed with a newcomer from the outer sect, and it was also a competition of origin chi. They exchanged a palm strike, and in the end, he crippled that brat with one strike. No. The previous games were too crude. Today, we'll try something new. Today, we'll beat up the elders. Tiger Cliff laughed nastily. Beat up the elders? The surrounding disciples were stunned. That's right, we'll hit the elders with a palm strike and see who can beat the elders back or even make them bleed. Who can call Elder Fong over? And let me show you a few moves to broaden your horizons. Tiger Cliff thought that it was time to show off his skills. Why are there so many people crowded together today? Don't you all need to cultivate? As they spoke, an old man took the initiative to walk over. Attendant Wu? Tiger Cliff was first startled, and then his face was full of smiles. Attendant Wu of the inner sect had the ability of the 7th layer of element gathering tier. He really came at the right time. Chapter 147. One palm to decide the universe immediately. Tiger Cliff pulled Deacon Wu aside and said a few words. Deacon Wu nodded repeatedly and instantly understood the ins and outs of the matter. How could they allow an outsider like Qin Hao to behave atrociously in the inner sanctum? Fine, old man, I'll sacrifice my soul and soft body and take a few hits from you. I'll let you, a country bumpkin, know the difference between you and my sect's disciples. To be honest, even the old man has to admire your courage. How can a lowly thing like you be compared to the geniuses of our sect? Moreover, Tiger Cliff is a genius among geniuses, a monster among monsters. You really overestimate yourself. Deacon Wu first humiliated Qin Hao, then looked at Tiger Cliff with a smile. Little Tiger, when you attack, you must show some mercy to the old man. Don't use too much force and hurt me. Deacon Wu, please don't worry. I will only use 30% of my strength. And your medical expenses, I'll bear all of them. Tiger Cliff said with a sinister smile. Which one you will go first? Deacon Wu looked at Qin Hao and Tiger Cliff. Country bumpkin, you're an outsider. I'll let you attack first. Tiger Cliff said gracefully. No need, you go first. Because once I make a move, you won't have a chance. Qin Hao said with a cold face. This Deacon Wu was clearly in cahoots with Tiger Cliff. Shameless boasting. Let me show you a thing or two and teach you how to behave. As he spoke, Tiger Cliff gathered his yuan qi, and the green light on his body shook. His primordial qi formed a gust of wind around him, giving him the appearance of an expert. Senior Brother Tiger Cliff's aura is too shocking. Looking at this posture, could it be the profound rank low-grade palm technique that Senior Brother Tiger Cliff cultivates? One slap, two scattering palm. Hiss! The disciples sucked in a cold breath. Breaking up with a single slap meant that he had split them in half with a single slap. I say, Xiaohu, you must show mercy. Deacon Wu pretended to be afraid. His legs trembled, and he was about to cry. Don't worry. If I say 30%, then I'll give 30%. Watch out for my palm. Let's break up. Whoosh! This time, Tiger Cliff directly used 100% of his strength. He sneered in his heart. Did he really think that Lousy would only use 30% of his strength? Deacon Wu was really an idiot. Immediately, a green gust of wind formed under his palm and slammed heavily into Deacon Wu's body. However, as soon as the palm wind came into contact with Deacon Wu, it immediately dissipated. It was like a stone sinking into the sea, without even the slightest ripple. What's the situation? The surrounding disciples were stunned. Could it be that Senior Brother Tiger Cliff's parting of ways did not have any effect on Deacon Wu? But then thud, thud, Deacon Wu clutched his chest and staggered back 5 or 6 steps in one breath. As soon as he stopped, another mouthful of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Great palm technique, Senior Brother. Deacon Wu is bleeding. This is 2F** king shocking. With Origin Qi in the 5th layer of Element Gathering Tier, he beat Deacon Wu, who is in the 7th layer of Element Gathering Tier, like a falling leaf. Who in the entire inner sect can compare with Senior Brother Tiger Cliff in terms of Origin Qi? Senior Brother Tiger Cliff is mighty. The disciples all cheered. However, Tiger Cliff did not look happy at all. Instead, he pretended to be nervous and rushed forward, carefully supporting Deacon Wu. My apologies, my palm technique is really too fierce. I didn't think that a mere 30% of my strength would be able to injure Deacon Wu so badly. I feel extremely guilty. It's all right. Although it took away half of the old man's life, it's not enough to kill him. As he spoke, Deacon Wu deliberately coughed twice and coughed out a mouthful of blood. However, he cursed in his heart. Tiger Cliff, this trash. 10% of his Origin Qi was completely useless against the old man. I still have to use my inner strength to injure myself, then bite my tongue and spit out blood. However, at this moment, Deacon Wu secretly stretched out 3 fingers towards Tiger Cliff, meaning, for this palm technique, the old man wanted 30,000 taels of silver. Tiger Cliff shook his head repeatedly and hurriedly stretched out 1 finger, meaning that he would only give 10,000 taels of silver. Deacon Wu's old eyes glared and his beard flew up, meaning that he was not satisfied. Seeing this, Tiger Cliff fiercely clenched his teeth and secretly stretched out 1 finger, meaning that he would add another half to 15,000 taels of silver. Deacon Wu smiled and nodded. He stretched out his withered hand towards Tiger Cliff in a friendly manner, meaning, deal. Seeing this, Tiger Cliff sincerely shook Deacon Wu's hand. Deal. Following this, Deacon Wu coughed again and coughed out another mouthful of blood. He used his eyes to tell Tiger Cliff that this mouthful of blood was free. Dear, it was delivered to your doorstep, including delivery. Tiger Cliff nodded his head in satisfaction. His heart was really at ease. Little Tiger is indeed the number 2 genius of the inner sect. This palm injury has already penetrated into the old man's internal organs. I most likely won't live for long. Deacon Wu lamented in a weak tone. His eyes were like a profiteer's. It's all my fault for being stupid. I didn't think that 30% of my strength would be so strong. Deacon Wu, you will definitely live a long life. Tiger Cliff hurriedly pretended to cry. It's fine, as long as we prove that the inner sect disciples are geniuses. Even if I die, the old man can rest in peace. But you don't think that just because the old man is injured, you can take advantage of him. Even if I was beaten up by you, it was in fact due to Tiger Cliff's efforts. However, that is impossible. Even if the old man can only use 10% of his strength, you will not be able to harm a single hair on my body. After saying this, Deacon Wu walked towards Qin Hao, his eyes full of contempt. Tiger Cliff also crossed his arms and sneered at the side. He secretly mocked Qin Hao. What do you have to compete with me? All the disciples here listen to me. Even the elders listen to me. If you want to compete with me, go eat shit. Master, don't compete. Even if the swordsman was slow-witted, he could tell that Tiger Cliff and Deacon Wu were purposely digging a hole for Qin Hao to jump into. How is it, kid? Don't just stand there. Quickly make your move. If you have the ability, make Deacon Wu bleed too. Most likely he admitted defeat. Ha ha ha. The disciples roared with laughter. Qin Hao also laughed. I can make my move. But what if I kill him with one move? Deacon Wu was stunned when he heard this. Immediately after, he held his stomach and laughed until his mouth was full of saliva. Damn, this is the funniest joke that the old man has ever heard. I'm dying of laughter. Ha! This kid is too arrogant, boasting shamelessly, bragging to the heavens. You want to kill Deacon Wu with one move? Maybe in your next life. Sigh, fighting with this kind of idiot, I feel very degrading. Tiger Cliff shook his head repeatedly. Stop talking nonsense. Quickly come over and give old man a slap. Why don't you take a piss and look at your own face? What right does a peasant have to compete with us intersect disciples? You're a slut. Trash. Trash. We intersect disciples are noble, strong, and pretentious. Go ahead. Beat me to death. Come and destroy me to your heart's content. Hurry up and let old man witness your awesome palm technique. Why don't you just jump into a cesspool and drown yourself? Hong Long. An earth-shattering explosion rang out. Deacon Wu had not finished his words. Qin Hao made his move. He sent out a palm strike, an origin chi equivalent to that of the 8th layer of element gathering tear spread out. Beneath his palm, a whirlwind dragon about 15 meters long surged out, carrying an unstoppable force that swept all the surrounding disciples up into the air. Moreover, it landed a strike on Elder Wu's chest. Chapter 148. Number 1. In the intersect hiss. The disciples gasped. What happened just now? There was a gust of wind. Half of my body is numb. The disciple who fell sprawled on the ground, unable to get up for a long time. Qin Hao still maintained his posture of striking out with one hand behind his back and the other in front of him. Standing upright, he said calmly, unable to withstand a single blow. Boom! It was as if a thunderbolt had struck Tiger Cliff's head. Looking at this shocking scene, his eyes almost fell to the ground. Attendant Wu was sent flying with a single palm strike, and flying so high. Just now, Tiger Lizard had clearly seen that when Qin Hao made his move, Deacon Wu seemed to have felt a sense of danger. He widened his old eyes and released all of his strength, even the strength of drinking milk. But under Qin Hao's palm strike, Attendant Wu, who had put his life on the line, was as fragile as glass and was smashed into pieces with a single palm strike. Who was stronger between Qin Hao and the lizard, even an idiot could tell by now. This is definitely impossible. How could he fly so high? Wu Yong, you old piece of trash. Hurry up and get up. Did UF Asterisk can go easy on him? Tiger Cliff could not accept this fact and charged toward Attendant Wu, clutching his neck and swinging it wildly. Attendant Wu did not even make a sound, as if he had stopped breathing. That brat really killed Attendant Wu. Attendant Wu is a powerful warrior in the 7th layer of element gathering tier. He couldn't even block a single palm strike. Is that guy even human? The disciples were terrified and almost wet their pants. Qin Hao not only knew how to concoct pills, but also scare the number 1 of the sword sect with a single sword strike. And now, even his origin chi was so dense. He was not human. He was practically a monster. This is not true. In fact, I beat attendant Wu to the point of vomiting blood first, and that brat took advantage of it. It's all my credit. Brat, take another palm strike for me. Tiger Cliff completely went crazy and charged toward Qin Hao in anger and humiliation. Get lost. Qin Hao waved his hand. Pung! A wave of palm energy sent Tiger Cliff flying 20 meters away. His head crashed into the wall, and he couldn't even buckle down. Tiger Cliff's arrogance, and Tiger Cliff's disdain. But at this moment, it had turned into a pile of useless bubbles. Ghost, this brat is not human. The mighty senior brother Tiger Cliff has become a wall film. The disciples were so shocked that they pissed their pants, unable to restrain the fear in their hearts. Let me tell you something. Women are not meant to be humiliated. They are meant to be respected and protected. Don't look down on any girl. They can do much more than you, and even better. Qin Hao said coldly. This young master is really a good person. He's right. Who said that women are inferior to men? Women can hold up half the sky. There are even Empress-level experts on the continent. Let's not talk about others. Senior sister Chen Wanqin is the #1 expert in our sect. Even the grandson of the Grand Elder can't compare to her. Qin Hao instantly won the favor of the female disciples. Some of the female disciples were even looking at him with admiration. This person is right. I agree with him. Women are not meant to be humiliated, beaten, and scolded. They are meant to be respected and protected. But forgive me for being blunt. Trash like you doesn't deserve to protect a beautiful girl, and you don't deserve to stand with that outstanding girl. His words were laced with sarcasm. In an instant, a white figure descended from the sky and landed on top of everyone's head. It was as if a prince had landed lightly on the field. With this move, Qin Hao could tell that this person had a good movement technique. So it's senior brother Ji Feng, who is known as the Man of the Wind, the #1 in the inner sect. We're saved now. Many of the male disciples who were scared witless by Qin Hao immediately cried to the sky. Finally, a real expert had come to subdue this pervert. The #1 in the inner sect had come. It's senior brother Ji Feng. He's so handsome. He's so elegant. In an instant, the female disciples who admired Qin Hao looked at the man in white in the field at the same time. Some of the female disciples even breathed faster and faster. Their hearts were beating wildly. They were so excited that they almost fainted on the ground. This man was 7 feet tall. He was elegant and refined. He held a folding fan in the middle of winter and fanned himself coquettishly. He exuded a scholarly aura from head to toe. His refined and courteous appearance had a strong attraction to women, not to mention that this man was a gigolo. In an instant, he replaced Qin Hao as the center of attention. After he appeared, he didn't look at anyone, not even Qin Hao. He only had eyes for Xiao Han. Cut the crap. What do you want to compete with? Qin Hao had wasted too much time. He didn't have time to talk nonsense with this self-righteous person. Vulgar. Did I say I want to compete with you? Only a retard like Tiger Cliff would fight and kill in front of so many beautiful women. Oh, I'm sorry. King cursed impolitely. But in fact, you're just as stupid as Tiger Cliff. The man called senior brother Ji Feng was full of vulgarities, but he still pretended to fan himself elegantly. And the impoliteness in his words seemed to be caused by Qin Hao. Young master, you're too rude. We originally had a good impression of you, but you taught senior brother Ji Feng to curse. You're really an uncivilized barbarian. A country bumpkin will always be a country bumpkin. How can you compare to senior brother Ji Feng? Senior brother Ji Feng is from a prestigious family. Why aren't you apologizing to senior brother Ji Feng? The female disciples scolded Qin Hao. You want me to apologize? Qin Hao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. When Ji Feng appeared, Qin Hao only said one sentence. In the eyes of the female disciples, he seemed to have become an unpardonable sinner. Forget it, forget it. I'm a magnanimous person. I won't argue with such vulgar trash. I don't mind losing out a little, but you dare to be rude to my junior sisters. I can't forgive you. And this lady, why are you standing with such a lowly person? Do you have time to have a meal with me? Then we can discuss life and dreams. Jifeng also came in front of Xiaohan. The corners of his mouth curled into a charming smile. His face looked delicate and charming. His body also emitted a refreshing fragrance. His actions made him seem like a warm man. My heart is beating so fast. Senior brother Jifeng is so handsome. But why won't he eat with me? That country bumpkin is so lucky. What right does she have to win senior brother Jifeng's favor? The female disciples were filled with jealousy toward Xiaohan. Xiaohan didn't even look at Jifeng. She didn't even bother to respond to him. She took the initiative to hold Qin Hao's hand and said helplessly, I want to eat sugar-coated haws. Later, accompany me to buy some. Okay, Qin Hao said gently. Creak. Jifeng clenched his fists so hard that the fan in his hand was deformed. His face also became ferocious and ugly. Get out of my way. You don't deserve to be with this beautiful lady. I'll give you 3 breaths of time to get out of my sight. Otherwise, I'll make you regret living in this world. Jifeng rushed forward and pushed Qin Hao away. I'll also give you 3 breaths of time to get out of my sight. Otherwise, you'll regret being born in this world. In your next life, remember not to be a gigolo. Xiaohan was as cold as ice. She returned Qin Hao's words to him. You ungrateful *TCH. Chapter 149. Fighting for True Love. Senior brother Gale, teach them a lesson. They're treating you like a pile of dog shit. You're the number 1 in the inner sect. Even I feel ashamed for you. The disciples clamored fiercely. These harsh words made Gale's expression turn even uglier, but he did not make a move against Qin Hao. Qin Hao crossed his arms and snickered. Gale's ability was on the same level as Tiger Cliff's, at the 5th layer of Element Gathering tier. Tiger Cliff was knocked over by Qin Hao with a casual attack. Even Attendant Wu, who was at the 7th layer of Element Gathering tier, was knocked unconscious by the force. As long as Gale's brain was still working, he would definitely not dare to make a move. But in reality, Qin Hao made a mistake in his judgment this time. In the next second, Gale really did make a move. Good. Even my junior brother doesn't like you. Just now, you were rude to my junior sisters. Everyone has the right to punish you. Prepare to admire my elegance. As he spoke, origin chi surged on Gale's body. Qin Hao's alchemy skills were very impressive. Another sword strike that scared a swordsman to his knees. The force of the sword was extremely strong. What was even more ridiculous was the origin chi. It knocked over Tiger Cliff, and even Attendant Wu could not withstand a palm strike. In a head-on battle, Gale admitted that he was no match for Qin Hao. I admit that I can't beat you in alchemy, sword techniques, and origin chi. But if you think you can dominate the inner sect like this, then you're gravely mistaken. Because I, Gale, am still here. Please remember my coquettish nickname. Man like wind, I want to compete with you in movement techniques. Gale smiled. As a disciple of a famous sect, he naturally had his own trump cards. He practiced a mystic-level, medium-level movement technique called mincing and twisting little wave steps. But don't underestimate this movement technique. This movement technique could allow one to walk sideways, walk backwards, crawl, and walk diagonally, leaping onto roofs and vaulting over walls, as if walking on thin ice, and could even walk close to water. No matter what kind of difficult environment, as long as one used little wave steps, it would be like walking on flat ground. Because of this, Tiger Cliff would not even be able to touch Gale's clothes and would be beaten to a pulp in an instant. This was what Gale relied on. This was his capital. This was his pride and joy. He was, without a doubt, the number 1 disciple of the inner sect. Furthermore, tiny wave steps had already been trained to the great perfection stage by Gale. Qin Hao was simply courting death. Ha! What the F***CK? I feel like I've never been as handsome as I am today. How about it, kid? Do you dare to compete with me? Gale said impudently. That's right, senior brother. Compete with him in movement techniques. Let you and your leg hair come here. Blind as dog eyes, a man like the wind, the prince charming in our hearts. At this moment, both the male and female disciples worshiped Gale to the extreme. Competing in movement techniques? Qin Hao also smiled. His smile was incomparably brilliant. He laughed without saying a word. In this mainland, there was really no movement technique that was stronger than the high heaven grade technique, water wind god steps. Thinking of this, Qin Hao also sighed speechlessly. Sigh. Gale was really looking for a beating, and he was beaten by the movement technique that he was most proud of. This kid shook his head and sighed. He must have been frightened by senior brother Gale's leg hair. He's ashamed of his inferiority. The male disciples raised their noses and broke free from the shadow of Tiger Cliff's failure. Are you going to compete or not? I hate people who waste time the most. Time is gold. Gale roared. All right, I'll compete with you. Qin Hao could not help but laugh. Ha! You're about to die, and you still dare to laugh. I'll make you cry immediately. Gale pointed to the huge training field. From here, we'll cross over and then go through the corridor. Whoever reaches the end of the corridor first will be the winner. The corridor was the passage that connected the inner and outer sect. Qin Hao estimated that the distance was about 2,000 meters, which was enough. I don't have any objections. Let's begin. After finishing his sentence, the energy in Qin Hao's body surged. Don't be anxious. In order to stimulate everyone's mood, why don't you and I each find a beauty and wait at the end of the corridor? Whoever reaches the end first will be able to hold the beauty's hand. At this point, Gale looked at Xiao Han with a thirsty gaze. Qin Hao only had Xiao Han by his side. She had to go even if she didn't want to. Gale was sure of this. At that time, as long as Qin Hao lost, Xiao Han would naturally fall under Gale's leg hair. I don't have any objections. Moreover, I can let the person who reaches first kiss me. Without waiting for Qin Hao to agree, Xiao Han took the initiative to walk out. At this moment, she had a feminine smile on her face. Her smile was like a flower that could topple cities. Gulp! All the male disciples swallowed their saliva at the same time. They were dumbfounded. Wonderful, wonderful. Huh. Gale felt his blood boil. If it wasn't for his reputation, he would have jumped up and howled like a pig. This Xiao Han obviously wanted to deliver herself to his doorstep. Gale felt that Xiao Han had already fallen for him. However, due to the presence of trash like Qin Hao, it wasn't convenient for her to be too heartless. After all, beauty still cared about their reputation. You have so much confidence in me. Qin Hao frowned slightly. In the past, Xiao Han wouldn't have been so daring. If you want to lose, you can let him kiss me. Xiao Han's feet touched the ground, and her body gracefully swept towards the end of the corridor, emitting the aura of fifth layer of element gathering tear. At this moment, her face was filled with sweetness. Xiao Han wanted to see Qin Hao compete with others for her. She wanted to know if she was always the most important person in Qin Hao's heart. Hiss! Quite a few disciples gasped. Xiao Han was actually in the fifth layer of element gathering tear. His strength was comparable to tiger lizards. The disciples wiped off their cold sweat and secretly rejoiced that they hadn't taken the initiative to be presumptuous with Xiao Han. This girl with a delicate appearance was really not simple. She's really a top-notch woman. I'm definitely going to kiss this woman. Gale's eyes were practically burning with passion. Xiao Han's excellence was far beyond his imagination. In the next second, Gale pretended to look elegantly at the female disciples of the inner sect. Which junior sister is willing to fight for senior brother? I'm willing to be held by senior brother Gale. Senior brother Gale, kiss me. Gale didn't need to call out names. Almost all the female disciples swarmed towards him, like a bunch of flies flying towards dog dung. Gale was naturally very pleased. He used his eyes to tell Qin Hao, look, I'm still the most charming. In the next second, even your woman will fall in love with me. I'm handsome, my face is fair, and I can make women happy. Cough, cough. Gale is flattered by all the junior sisters' good intentions, but there's only one spot. How about this, you? Gale pointed at a rather beautiful female disciple. Junior sister Lu Ro, thank you for your hard work. It's no trouble. To be able to help senior brother, I feel very honored. Lu Ro's face was red. Senior brother Gale would definitely be the first to reach the end of the corridor. She firmly believed this. Moreover, he would hold her hand and kiss her face in front of everyone. So embarrassing. Thinking of this, Lu Ro impatiently circulated her origin energy and dashed towards the end of the corridor. However, compared to Xiao Han's strength and graceful figure, Lu Ro was much weaker. She was only in the second layer of element gathering tier. However, her family was very powerful. She was the second young miss of the Lu clan, who had been pampered since childhood in Heaven's Wall City. Chapter 150. The loser was not Qin Hao. There were also many female disciples who were disappointed that they were not chosen by Storm. They looked at Lu Ro enviously. Lu Ro was the daughter of a rich family. They cannot be compared to Lu Ro. It's our turn next. Actually, I should let you run first. But if I do that, it would seem like I'm looking down on you. As the number one disciple of the inner sect, I can't bully you and make the first move. So, I'll count to 3 and we'll run together. How about that? Storm rubbed his palms impatiently. He could not wait to rush in front of Xiao Han and use his big mouth to ravage Xiao Han's face. I have no objections. Qin Hao nodded. In fact, even if he let Storm run first, Qin Hao would not lose. All right, listen to my command. Ready, 3. This Gale was shameless to the extreme. He directly shouted 3. After shouting, he pounced toward Xiao Han like a mad dog. This time, Qin Hao was stunned. Everyone present was stunned by the shout. Ha ha! Brainless country bumpkin. You'll never be able to catch up to me. Open your eyes wide and look carefully. Look at my invincible little wave steps. When Storm was running, he used all his tricks. He kept changing his posture, running backwards, running horizontally, running at a 60-degree angle. He even jumped up and purposely made a big turn. His feet stepped on the wall, and his body was parallel to the ground. It had to be said that this series of difficult moves was indeed very impressive. It caused the entire crowd to go wild. Senior Storm is too flirtatious. No wonder he's the number one disciple of the inner sect. Country bumpkin can't catch up even if he rides a horse. The disciples clapped and cheered. There was even a male disciple who came in front of Qin Hao. He pointed at his nose and ordered, "You trash. Hurry up and admit defeat to Senior Storm. He's already halfway there. You'll lose for sure." Is that so? Qin Hao sneered. After speaking, he suddenly used the aqua wind steps, and his body shot out like an arrow. As he passed by this disciple, a strong gust of wind was stirred up. This disciple was like a spinning top. He couldn't stop at all, and kept going in an endless cycle of 3, 141, 5926 revolutions per second. My God, this kid's speed is amazing. I can't even see my legs clearly. Throw out an afterimage. But he can't threaten Senior Brother Gale at all. Senior Brother Gale is only 500 meters away from the finish line. Even though everyone was shocked by Qin Hao's speed, it seemed that Gale would definitely win this match. In fact, Qin Hao hadn't used his full strength yet. He was carefully observing Gale's small wave steps. Xiao Lang's movements were rather small, and he was indeed very awkward. However, the coordination between his footsteps and the circulation of his yuan qi was indeed very perfect. No wonder Blast Wind was able to become the number one disciple of the inner sect. He indeed had the capital to be proud of. Unfortunately, this capital was nothing in front of Qin Hao. Indestructible samsara arts. Qin Hao shouted. His originally astonishing speed was once again increased violently. His entire body was like a rocket erupting, turning into a turbulent storm and chasing after Gale. At this moment, Qin Hao's feet were wrapped in a strong green light, and his legs threw out a shadow. In the blink of an eye, the distance between him and Gale was shortened, and he was already behind Gale. Senior Brother Gale is in danger. That kid is almost catching up to you. Hurry up and put in more effort. The disciples were so anxious that they were sweating profusely. 500 meters. Only 500 meters left. Give me 5 more breaths of time. 5 breaths of time is enough. Gale only had Xiao Han in his eyes. He even began to imagine the scene of him kissing Xiao Han passionately. At this moment, Lu Ro was also extremely excited. Senior brother Gale was already in front of her. She would soon be in his arms and kissed on the face. At this moment, Lu Ro shouted excitedly, "Senior brother Gale, you can do it. I love you." After hearing this, Gale seemed to have been injected with chicken blood as he charged forward. Only 400 meters left. 300 meters. 200 meters. 100 meters. Xiao Han was right in front of him. "Ha ha! Beautiful lady, I'm coming." Gale simply wanted to look up to the sky and cheer. However, at this critical moment, whoosh, a storm rushed past Gale's eyes. He had been overtaken by Qin Hao. All the disciples present widened their eyes and froze on the spot. Lu Ro was also stunned. Fear gradually rose in her eyes. Oh my God, that country bumpkin had overtaken senior brother Gale and was going to kiss her. What should she do? Lu Ro was extremely panicked, and tears of humiliation even appeared in her eyes. This competition was related to Gale's dignity. No matter how unwilling she was, she had to let Qin Hao kiss her. Lu Ro sighed in her heart. All right, as the second daughter of the Lu family, she could only suffer a little. She thought that Qin Hao would look for her, but she didn't notice that Qin Hao only had eyes for Xiao Han. Lu Ro instinctively felt that she was stronger than Xiao Han. Even if Xiao Han was stronger, she was more beautiful than her. But so what? Lu Ro was the daughter of a rich family. Xiao Han was just a lowly woman. Therefore, Lu Ro didn't hesitate to extend her hand towards Qin Hao. To be able to let Qin Hao kiss the back of her hand was already a great gift. She even raised her head proudly. However, Gale didn't have such leisure. The moment he was overtaken by Qin Hao, his heart also fell into a bottomless abyss and shattered into pieces. Xiao Han was clearly in front of him, but he couldn't touch her. All his beautiful dreams had turned into bubbles. How is this possible? Impossible. Gale let out a hoarse howl. His eyes were bloodshot, and his footsteps were frantic. In the end, his left foot accidentally stepped on his right foot, and his body flew horizontally like a flying toad and crashed into Lu Ro. I won. Qin Hao stopped steadily in front of Xiao Han, his face not red, his breathing not heavy, and his expression was calm from the beginning to the end. Xiao Han smiled but didn't say anything. On the other hand, Lu Ro was stunned. She stood on the spot in a daze. Qin Hao actually abandoned her and went to find a lowly woman like Xiao Han. Disgrace. It was simply a great disgrace. Lu Ro's expression was extremely ugly, and her body was trembling with anger. At this moment, a strange cry rang out. Lu Ro saw Gale flying in midair, and like a big toad, he hugged her. Lu Ro was instantly overjoyed. It was even better if senior brother Gale lost. Then she could be kissed by him. Lu Ro's heart trembled, and she opened her arms, trying to catch Gale. Whoosh! Gale flew over Lu Ro's head, smashing through the main door, and flew towards the outer door of Fengli Temple. And after landing, because the speed of little wave steps was too fast, he couldn't even stop. Gale's white clothes were scraped into rags on the ground, and his fan flew to God knows where. The skin on his body was scraped, and the ground was covered in blood, making one feel pain just by looking at him. Qin Hao shook his head helplessly, as he had expected this. Immediately, he grabbed Xiao Han's hand and was about to leave. But Xiao Han stood firmly and didn't move at all. You haven't kissed me yet, Xiao Han said. Qin Hao was stunned. Is it that important? To me it is. You have to kiss me. Xiao Han's gaze was very serious. If I was the one who lost just now, would you let Gale kiss you? Qin Hao felt that Xiao Han was being unreasonable. It's impossible for you to lose, and the one who loses won't be Qin Hao. But if you really lose, I'll kill Gale. Xiao Han's answer didn't have a trace of hesitation. Qin Hao was speechless. He bent down, and his lips touched Xiao Han's forehead. In the blink of an eye, it was like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. Boom! Chapter 151. Imposter. That bastard really kissed Xiao Han. He blasphemed our goddess. Even senior brother Strong Wind was defeated by his leg hair. Was he a human or a monster? With a wave of his hand, he refined a supreme-grade, great origin pill and scared the sword masters to their knees. He beat up senior brother Tiger Cliff, who was a master of Qi, and even Deacon Wu, who was at the 7th tier of Essence Gathering tier, lost his integrity. Now, even the man who was like the wind has been utterly defeated. As long as he's in the inner sect, we'll never be able to stand out. Oh, heavens, the disciples howled in grief and indignation. Qin Hao had single-handedly defeated all of them in the inner sect. Qin Hao was extremely dissatisfied with this, because they had wasted too much time. If this was not the sect, but the wilderness, one sword was enough to kill all these sheltered egomaniacs, clean and tidy. Who else? Qin Hao roared, his voice rolling over everyone's heads like angry thunder. The disciples retreated in fear, their faces pale. There was no one who could stop Qin Hao anymore. And me, an even more hoarse howl sounded. Although this howl could not compare to Qin Hao's in terms of momentum, it was so tragic that it was as mournful as killing one's father. Everyone turned to look. A young man with small eyes ran over from afar, carrying a small copper cauldron in his arms. It was Wang Taidan. Wang Taidan. Li Gangpao was stunned. Wang Taidan was his former opponent. But unfortunately, Bin Gangpao was already at the 4th tier. Wang Taidan was really disappointing. What are you doing here? Back off for Bin Gangpao. Li Gangpao said with a sullen face. It seemed that Wang Tiedan's arrival made him lose face. After all, as Li Gangpao's opponent, Wang Tiedan's current status was too low. Get out of my way. Wang Taidan pushed Li Gangpao away and went directly to Qin Hao. He saw Qin Hao holding a cauldron and standing so close to Li Gangpao. This person must have refined a supreme-grade, great origin pill. What? You want to stop me too? Qin Hao's face darkened. This small-eyed youth was not even as strong as Li Gangpao. Could it be that his brain was also flooded with water? F*CKU. Wang Taidan cursed the moment he opened his mouth. His face was covered in tears and snot. The snot was going in and out of his nostrils and was a foot long. As his body twitched again and again, his snot also moved up and down. It was very elastic. This made Qin Hao feel baffled. He didn't provoke the other party, but it was as if he had killed his father. You are the monster that refined the supreme grade, great elemental pill? Why did you appear here? Why did you throw the major elemental pill into Li Gangpao's mouth? Wang Taidan looked as if he had been greatly wronged. I've been refining pills for 5 years, a whole 5 years. Do you know how much I've suffered? How much time had he wasted cultivating? But with a wave of your hand, you refined the major elemental pill and threw it into Li Gangpao's mouth. How unfair is this to me? My heart is broken. Wang Taidan pounded Qin Hao's chest with his small fists. He had the urge to die. Qin Hao instantly understood. He patted Wang Tiedan's shoulder and said, Actually, I understand. What's the use of you knowing? You are simply, you. Wang Taidan was so angry that he couldn't even speak. He looked at Qin Hao so closely. He seemed to have seen Qin Hao's face somewhere before. At this moment, he remembered. Yesterday, in order to buy ingredients for refining pills, he asked for leave from a junior brother and went to Heaven's Wall City. In the end, he saw a great show at the entrance of Tang Manor. There was a kid at the entrance of Tang Manor, beating up the Tang Manor's lackey butler. When he slapped out, his palm was covered in blood. It was so satisfying and exciting. Moreover, that kid was holding a large seal in his hand. That peerless grace. Wang Taidan swore that he would never forget it. But since he dared to impersonate the Sage King of Fengli Temple, he would definitely be punished by the sect. At this moment, Wang Taidan felt a chill run down his spine. He saw Qin Hao holding a pill furnace in his hand. That aura, that demeanor. Qin Hao's face gradually overlapped with the impersonator of the Sage King. Wang Taidan suddenly screamed and subconsciously backed away. Then he saw another group of people lying on the ground. How could the one lying on the ground be Deacon Wu? The one whose head was stuck in the wall was the #1 master of energy, Tiger Cliff. Wong Taidan immediately recognized Tiger Cliff. That was because Tiger Cliff's buttocks were too big. In the entire intersect, no one had a bigger buttocks than Tiger Cliff. Then he saw a swordsman. Swordsman was squatting on the ground, picking up the shards with a pained expression. Could it be that swordsman's big river sword? Wong Taidan finally came to his senses. The pervert who had brought disaster to Tang Manor was now bringing disaster to Fengli Temple. So it really is you? You impersonator. You're about to die. Wong Taidan stopped crying. In fact, he was backing away. He knew very well how strong Qin Hao was. He could crush someone in the 8th tier of element gathering tier. Moreover, he had a mysterious, magical treasure in his hand. And that magical treasure didn't seem to have been used yet. What's going on? Some disciples felt that something was amiss. Yesterday, this brat came to Tang Manor in Heaven's Wall City to provoke us. He pretended to be a disciple of Fengli Temple and called himself the Sage King. But don't be afraid, junior brothers. I've already notified the elders, and they'll be here soon. We have more people now. Quickly surround and kill him. Wong Taidan was shouting to surround and kill Qin Hao, but he kept backing away. Kill him. Everyone, don't be afraid. Don't panic. We have to act in an orderly manner. Why are you pushing me? The disciples also began to howl, but they were the same as Wong Taidan. Although they were shouting to kill Qin Hao, they kept backing away. The people behind even pushed the people in front of them in the direction of Qin Hao. Qin Hao's aura was too strong. He stood there like a majestic emperor. Get the F***CK out of my way. I can't live under the same sky as this bastard. Another heart-wrenching scream sounded. This voice was very familiar. This voice belonged to Gale. Gale rushed over, covered in blood. His body was covered in strips of cloth. He was filled with hatred and misery. The humiliation on his face. Just now, he accidentally stepped on his right foot with his left foot and flew out of the sect like a toad. Coincidentally, when Qin Hao came from the outer sect, he taught Zhao Xi and Wang Dazhuang a lesson. Zhao Xi was knocked unconscious by Qin Hao. After a while, he woke up and was sitting in the square, rubbing his smelly feet. Then, Gale suddenly descended from the sky. This gave Zhao Xi a fright. He instinctively raised his leg to kick. However, Gale opened his mouth and screamed wildly. Therefore, his leg accurately entered Gale's mouth. Zhao Xi's smelly feet were famous in the Fengli Temple. Even he couldn't stand it. But it was actually sucked into the mouth of a man like Gale. One could imagine Gale's expression at that time. He vomited out his dinner from last night. He resisted the urge to die from the stench and knocked Zhao Xi unconscious with a punch. This Zhao Xi was really unlucky. In fact, he felt extremely wronged. It was Gale who flew over and gently sucked on his leg. This incident became something Zhao Xi could boast about in the future. My smelly feet were once sucked by the number 1 disciple of the inner sect. Country bumpkin, if I don't kill you, I'm not human. Chapter 152. Neil. Looks like senior brother Gale has really gone mad. I heard that when he goes mad, even he is afraid of himself. Senior brother Gale, let's work together to kill this bastard. The disciples regained some confidence. At this moment, Lu Ro walked in front of Gale, seemingly still in a fantasy. Senior brother Gale, are you here to kiss me? Scram. Gale roared like a wild beast, raising his hand to slap Lu Ro's face. Senior brother Gale, why did you hit me for no reason? Lu Ro's tears gushed out instantly, covering the bloody palm print on her face. I hit you because I want to. What reason do you have? A slut like you is asking me to hit you. Whatever I tell you to do, you do it. If I tell you to eat shit, will you eat it? Don't think that you're the second miss of the Lu clan. In my eyes, women are like clothes. Wear them and feel good, then throw them away. Who asked my face to be so white? You're asking for it, so get out of my sight. Slut, slut, bah. Gale finally revealed his ferocious side, reverting to his ugly nature. You are not human. Lu Ro's tears flowed. I've always been like this. You're so slutty when you see me. How can I refuse? You dare to stop me, Scram? Gale's palm struck towards Lu Ro again. This time, he unleashed the power of the fifth layer of element gathering tier, and his palm brought about turbulent origin chi. If this continued, Lu Ro, who was only at the second layer of element gathering tier, would definitely be disfigured. Pa! The palm stopped at Lu Ro's cheek, lifting up her long hair. But this slap did not land on her face, not because Gale had found his conscience, but because someone had firmly grabbed his wrist. I remember someone once said that women are not meant to be humiliated, beaten, or scolded, but to be respected and protected. Qin Hao's eyes were cold. His grip made Gale grimace. He raised his hand and pushed Gale out. Lu Ro looked at the scene in front of her and could no longer hold back her tears. The Qin Hao that she despised saved her. The courteous Gale had turned uglier than an evil spirit. This scene completely overturned Lu Ro's beliefs. Thank you for letting me see clearly what it means to be a beast in human form, and what it means to be sanctimonious. Gale, you are a beast. Lu Ro looked at Qin Hao gratefully. However, he kept a distance from Qin Hao. Qin Hao is now the enemy of all. He might even be hunted down by the sect. Lu Ro would never have anything to do with Qin Hao. Brat, today, I will skin you, drink your blood, chew your bones, and eat them. I want you to die. Gale fell into a frenzy and was about to go crazy. How could he still remember that he was no match for Qin Hao? He rushed toward Qin Hao without any pattern. We have tolerated all of you for far too long. From a moment, we stepped into Fengli Temple. We have given all of you one chance after another, yet none of you know how to be grateful. With that, a green light enveloped Qin Hao's body. An unprecedentedly strong yuan qi gathered in his palm. This was a powerful palm strike superimposed with the inextinguishable samsara technique. With his palm strike, Gale, who was at the fifth layer of element gathering tier, would definitely be crippled. This was the most merciful punishment that Qin Hao could give. Scram! Qin Hao pressed his palm toward Gale's face. Wherever the palm strike passed, the stone slabs flew. Instantly, the disciples screamed in fright. Previously, it was this palm strike that made Deacon Wu, who was at the seventh layer of element gathering tier, unable to resist. Gale was dead for sure this time. Boom! There was an earth-shattering explosion. Dust filled the air from the explosion. In the dust, Gale closed his eyes and tore at his hair, screaming like a ghost. However, he was unscathed, because someone was blocking in front of him. It was an old man. The old man also struck a palm strike toward Qin Hao. The moment the two palms collided, Qin Hao could not help but take 3 steps back. The old man was even worse. He took 7 steps back and landed on the ground with his last step, creating a pit. Brat, what dense inner energy! The old man could not help but praise. It's Elder Li, who is at the 8th layer of element gathering tier. My God, someone finally saved us. Elder Li, quickly kill this person. He's the shameless impostor of the Fengli Temple's Saint King. Wang Taidan shouted excitedly. Yesterday, when he returned from Heaven's Wall City, he immediately informed all the elders of the inner court about Qin Hao impersonating the Saint King. Currently, the elders were investigating this matter. Elder Li came at the right time. I see. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant in our inner court. Even Wu Yong, that trash, couldn't protect his integrity in his old age. Brat, you really hid your strength well. Elder Li said without trembling. Judging from the palm strike just now, he discovered that Qin Hao had the ability to match someone at the 8th layer of element gathering tier. However, Qin Hao's cultivation level was only at the 5th layer of element gathering tier. He really did not know how this brat cultivated to this level. With such tyrannical strength, it was completely reasonable for him to defeat all the inner court disciples. Not to mention the outer court disciples. Even the inner court disciples, with the exception of the sect leader's daughter and the eldest elder's grandson, might not be a match for Qin Hao. At this moment, Elder Li's eyes were filled with admiration. But unfortunately, Qin Hao dared to impersonate the Fengli Temple's Saint King. Moreover, he caused the entire inner court to lose face. He had to pay a heavy price for this. I can spare your life, but you must kneel in front of the old man, kowtow 3 times, and apologize to all the disciples of my sect. Finally, let the old man cripple your cultivation. Now kneel immediately, Elderly shouted, his tone unquestionable. It was as if he had already granted Qin Hao a heavenly favor. You want me to kneel? Murderous intent burst forth from Qin Hao's eyes. His gaze was unstoppable. In his previous life, Qin Hao did not fear being besieged by so many emperor-level powerhouses, let alone kneel. Even after his rebirth, even Qin Shilong did not kneel. Even his master, Dan Xian, did not kneel. Qin Hao only kneeled to Qin Laosi. But this little inner court elder opened his mouth and told Qin how to kneel. To Dendi, this was an unforgivable trampling. That's right, kneel in front of the old man, kowtow, and beg for mercy. Plead for the old man's forgiveness and apologize to all the disciples of my sect. Why haven't you kneeled yet? Elderly shouted again, and a fierce green light rose from his body. If Qin Hao did not kneel, he would not be merciful. You protected the dignity of the sect. There was nothing wrong with that. But when your disciples provoked me, I did not see you stop them. If it wasn't for my strength, I'm afraid there would be no need for you to step in. Just these trash disciples would not let me go. At that time, would you still stand out and say something fair? Qin Hao waved his finger in front of his nose. You wouldn't. So, kneel for me. With a shout, Qin Hao's finger lit up, and the small pill furnace in his palm disappeared. In its place, a large black seal appeared in his hand. The large seal was thrown towards Elder Li's head. Qin Hao had wasted too much time and did not have the energy to continue playing with this old man. The flipping person seal became bigger and bigger, covering Elder Li's head like a 10,000-pound boulder. The powerful pressure emitted by the weapon immediately shattered Elder Li's confidence. Elder Li's eyes widened, and he clenched his teeth. Exploding with the power of the 8th layer of element gathering tier, he raised both his hands above his head, trying to block the weapon. But as soon as his palms touched the flipping person seal, Hong Long. Chapter 153. You have no right. Heavens, what did that kid throw out? Even Elder Li couldn't withstand it. He was forced to kneel. The disciples were terrified. With their eyesight, they could not see the power of the overturning person's seal. Illusory, spirit ominous weapon? Elder Li tried his best to resist the flipping person's seal. He was surprised that Qin Hao had a spatial Dharma artifact. At first glance, he recognized that the thing on top of his head was a murder weapon, an illusory weapon that could change its size. Under the control of Qin Hao's origin chi, which was comparable to the 8th layer of element gathering tier, the combined power was not something that Elder Li could withstand. Brat, quickly remove the weapon above the old man's head. Otherwise, you will die without a burial place. Although he was shocked, Elder Li was not afraid. This was Feng Li Temple. If Qin Hao dared to be impudent, he would die without a doubt. You still dare to be stubborn. Kneel! Qin Hao shouted again. The falling pressure of the flipping person seal was even greater. Elder Li's eyes were bloodshot from the pressure, and his legs crushed the stone floor. Brat, why aren't you stopping? You're courting death. Elder Li really couldn't hold on any longer. Kneel! Qin Hao's palm struck down with all his might. Rumble! Elder Li let out a blood-curdling scream as his entire body fell to the ground. The flipping person's seal crushed his old face. Young hero, please spare my life. You must think carefully. This is the Feng Li Temple's inner sect. I won't cripple your cultivation. All you have to do is kneel down and slap yourself 3 times. Then you can leave. Elder Li hurriedly bargained. As he spoke, he wanted to trick Qin Hao into moving away from the flipping person seal. As for not crippling his cultivation, that was absolutely impossible. Old man, you've disappointed me. Qin Hao gathered his primordial chi and prepared to increase the pressure of the flipping man's seal. Kid, enough is enough. Elder Sang's voice was heard, and then a figure in a white robe rushed into the arena. This figure was extremely fast, even faster than Qin Hao's waterwind steps. Furthermore, his entire body was shrouded in green yuan qi. It's the Vice Sect Master, ranked 10th among the 10 great elders of the Phoenix Glass Hall. A sharp-eyed disciple cried out. The white-robed old man who suddenly appeared was the vice head of the inner sect. Moreover, he was one of the 10 elders of Fengli Temple. Although he was ranked the weakest, there was no doubt that he was a powerful master yuan. As soon as he appeared, he fiercely struck at Qin Hao with his palm. 1-star yuan master? Qin Hao was stunned. There was no fear on his face. At this moment, he did not hesitate to activate the Great Void Cauldron's Golden Bell protection. Wang, a layer of illusory qi cover surrounded Qin Hao. Qin Hao's Golden Bell protection, activated by the 5th tier of Element Gathering tier, was just enough to withstand the attacks of a 1-star yuan master. Bang! The 10th Elder's palm landed accurately on Qin Hao's chest. However, Qin Hao was completely unharmed. This was because the force of the palm was completely filtered out by the Golden Bell protection. However, immediately after, a blood-red light flashed. Qin Hao took out the purple meteorite sword and placed it on the 10th Elder's neck. Hiss! The disciples gasped. They had hoped that the 10th Elder would be able to restrain Qin Hao once he made his move. However, in the end, instead, Qin Hao's sword was placed on his neck. The 10th Elder had stretched his neck and ran in front of Qin Hao to die. Kid, calm down. Cold sweat trickled down the 10th Elder's forehead. Although it felt extremely strange, the palm he struck at Qin Hao did not have any effect. However, at this moment, the sword on his neck made him feel cold. He could clearly feel the power of the purple meteorite sword. This was also a lethal weapon. I just want to find someone. You've obstructed me time and time again. You've even schemed against me. Qin Hao pressed Elderly down with one hand and placed the sword on the 10th Elder's neck. The scene could be described as domineering. But today, he was very disappointed in Fengli Temple. Let's talk nicely. Who do you want to see? Old man, I promise you. The 10th Elder quickly gave in. As long as Qin Hao's sword could be moved away, he could turn from passive to active. Qin Hao had caused chaos in the entire inner sect. Even the elders were beaten to the ground. He had lost all face. Obviously, the 10th Elder would not let Qin Hao go so easily. I want to see Dan Xian. Qin Hao shouted. See who? The 10th Elder was stunned. See old man Dan Xian. Qin Hao repeated. Ha ha. The 10th Elder laughed crazily. Kid, do you know how noble Elder Dan Xian is? He is above us 10 elders. Do you think you can see him just because you want to? You don't have a right. Not to mention Qin Hao, even the 10th Elder himself would not dare to step into Dan Mountain without the order of the sect leader. Right? Qin Hao's eyes narrowed. The purple meteorite sword had cut open the 10th Elder's neck, and fresh blood flowed out. Do I have the right now? Yes, yes, yes. I'll bring you there. I'll bring you there. The 10th Elder was scared out of his wits and quickly agreed to bring Qin Hao to Phoenix Hall. But when he turned around, he looked into the darkness and sneered. Whoosh! At this time, another white-robed figure rushed into the sky. This white-robed figure's aura was stronger than the 10th Elder's. He was a 2-star yuan master and the 9th Elder of Phoenix Hall. He was also the sect leader of the inner sect. The 9th Elder took advantage of the moment when Qin Hao turned around and attacked him from behind. Unfortunately, Qin Hao had one hand on Elder Li and one sword on the 10th Elder's neck. Even if he sensed that someone was ambushing him, he could not free himself. If nothing unexpected happened, Qin Hao would be crippled even if he didn't die. Swoosh! At this critical moment, a clear sword light swept across. This sword strike was extremely fast. The sword technique used was a heaven-grade advanced level sword technique. 1. Sword. Startle. There were only 2 people in the entire Jiang Kingdom who could use a single sword technique. One was Qin Hao, the other was Xiao Han. At this moment, the power of Xiao Han's sword was obviously much stronger than Qin Hao's. At the same time, he also released all his strength. The peak of the 9th level of Yuan Gathering tier. Before the 9th Elder's palm could reach Qin Hao's back, it was intercepted by Xiaohan. Moreover, the Jade Water Sword was placed on the 9th Elder's neck. It was exactly the same as how Qin Hao subdued the 10th Elder. Little girl, calm down. Don't act rashly. The 9th Elder broke out in a cold sweat. He did not expect the girl beside Qin Hao to be an expert of the 9th level of Yuan Gathering tier. Moreover, the coldness on his neck told him that Xiaohan's sword was a high-grade advanced level sharp weapon. It was only half a point away from the sharpness of a lethal weapon. Despicable old thing. Xiaohan was as cold as ice, restraining her anger. This old man's sneak attack on Qin Hao was something she could not tolerate. Hiss! The disciples gasped again. And this time, they fainted on the ground. Qin Hao had defeated the entire inner sect. He had suppressed elderly with one palm and subdued the 10th elder with one sword. What they did not expect was that even the beauty who had been flirted with by the male disciples at the beginning was a terrifying expert of the 9th level of Yuan Gathering tier. Moreover, she had subdued the sect leader of the inner sect with one move. This was simply blinding to the eyes of the disciples. Lu Ro was so ashamed that she wanted to find a hole to hide in. She had looked down on Xiaohan because she was a woman at the bottom level. Xiaohan had used her actions to prove that Lu Ro was as insignificant as an ant. Boom! Qin Hao was also shocked. He froze on the spot. He slowly turned around and looked at Xiaohan. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.